Chapter 1236. Open a shop? You really have an idea. Yuchi had a speechless look on her face. She turned her head and glanced at the densely packed crowd in the public square. There are all kinds of people here. Why would this guy want to open a shop here? Is he crazy about making money? At this moment, Bu Fong was very excited. As soon as the idea came to his mind, he couldn't hold it back. It was difficult to get rid of it. He rubbed his chin and fell in a deep thought. He needed a storefront to open a shop, but he could open a stall in the square. A stall could also achieve great success, attract countless people, and become a place where many people flock to. Bu Fong nodded. He had a general idea in his mind. System. If I set up a stall in the square, the immortal crystals or nether crystals I earn could be counted as turnover, right? Bu Fong thought to himself and asked the system. The system was silent for a while, as if calculating the feasibility. In the end, the system's solemn voice resounded in Bu Fong's mind. The host can set up a stall in the square, and the income from a stall will be counted as turnover. Sure enough, Bu Fong's eyes lit up. With so many people in the square, it was definitely a huge resource, just like an undeveloped square. As for setting up a stall, what kind of stall would he set up, and what would he sell? Bu Fong needed to think carefully. Mo Yin and the others couldn't help but roll their eyes when they saw Bu Fong lost in thought. The great demon really wants to open a shop in the square? That's awesome. Zhu Yin was a little speechless about Bu Fong's idea. Realm Lord Dit asked us to take part in the competition, not to open a shop, but he couldn't say anything to Bu Fong now. He turned his head and walked into the distance. Over there, in an arena, lots were being drawn. It was the drawing of lots for the team competition. There was no need to draw lots for the individual competition, but someone had to be sent to collect the tag. This tag represented the identity of the contestants. Bu Fong asked Zhu Yan to do all this. Looking at Zhu Yan's back as he left, Bu Fong came to his senses. With his hands behind his back, he rubbed his chin and narrowed his eyes. Yu followed beside Bu Fong. Yuchi glanced at Bu Fong and pursed her lips. Do as you see fit. Don't go overboard. I'm going to get busy. All right, keep a low profile here. You're still too weak. If I hadn't arrived today, do you think you could have escaped unscathed? Yuchi looked at Bu Fong and said. Yuchi was not very clear about Bu Fong's cultivation, but the last time she saw Bu Fong was still pitifully weak. Not much time had passed since then, so he shouldn't have become much stronger. This kid's culinary skills are okay, but his cultivation is weak, Yuchi said. Bu Fong nodded. Then, with the heavy sword on her back, she walked into the distance and soon disappeared into the crowd. Are you really going to open a shop? Xianyuan Xiaohui asked, looking at Bu Fong. There are so many people and such a big market. It would be a waste not to open a shop, Bu Fong said. Hot pot? Food stalls? Xianyuan Xiaohui knew that Bu Fong was very experienced with this kind of stall. When Bu Fong first entered the Heaven Chief realm, he opened a stall in front of Heaven Chief Hall. Hot pot. Bu Fong glanced at Xianyuan Xiaohui and shook his head. Hot pot is not suitable for this kind of place. There are so many people, and most of them are preparing to take part in the competition, so we can't open stalls with fixed spots. They don't have time to eat slowly. It's best to open stalls that sell takeout dishes, Bu Fong said. Xianyuan Xiaohui froze. Takeout dishes? What is Bu Fong going to cook this time? Fong Yu and Mo Yin were speechless when they saw Xianyuan Xiaohui and Bu Fong chatting excitedly. Xianyuan Xiaohui was a commoner, and it was said that the great demon was also a commoner. Sure enough, only commoners would think of opening a stall. It's beneath me. Mo Yin and Fong Yu looked at each other and shook their heads in disappointment. Bu Fong and Xianyuan Xiaohui discussed for a while. Xianyuan Xiaohui was dumbfounded. He was dumbfounded by the large number of nouns that Bu Fong had just uttered. Then, let's do it. Xianyuan Xiaohui hesitated for a moment and said, I believe you, Owner Bu. The corner of Bu Fong's mouth twitched. He nodded. Follow me. Bu Fong said to Xianyuan Xiaohui. After saying that, Bu Fong walked toward the crowd. He was inspecting the location. He needed to find a place with a large flow of people and a place where everyone could meet. In the square, it was not difficult to find such a place. Bu Fong quickly found the place and set it there. Wait for me here. I'm going to prepare something, Bu Fong said to Xianyuan Xiaohui. Xianyuan Xiaohui was stunned. A moment later, she found that Bu Fong had disappeared. With a thought, Bu Fong entered the heaven and earth farmland. Inside the heaven and earth farmland, Cici and the others were discussing fiercely. They were studying a new dish. The appearance of Bu Fong stopped their discussion. Don't worry. You guys continue. I'm just passing by, Bu Fong said. After saying that, Bu Fong walked toward the wooden house and called Nyohan-san. He asked Nyohan-san to find some wood. Bu Fong set up a wooden stall at the same spot and even added a cloth banner on top of the stall. Owner Bu, what are you going to do? Nyohan-san stared at Bu Fong with a dumbfounded face. Oh, I'm going to make a little thing, Bu Fong said. Then he took the wooden stall and left the heaven and earth farmland. Before leaving, he also took a lot of ingredients. Xianyuan Xiaohui stood in the center of the crowd, feeling a little embarrassed. People kept looking at him, which made his body slightly shiver. He suddenly felt that Owner Bu's idea was not feasible. How uncomfortable it was to stand in such a position and receive so many gazes. How could he still be in the mood to cook? Buzz, a wave of fluctuation spread. Bu Fong appeared with a huge wooden stall. Xianyuan Xiaohui looked at Bu Fong in disbelief. The latter smashed the wooden stall on the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. The crowd was startled, and many of them retreated, revealing a huge empty space. Many people in the surroundings turned their gazes over. Some were dissatisfied, some were annoyed, and some were impatient. After all, in such a crowded place, it was normal for people to be annoyed if you put a thing in the way. Bu Fong's face was normal. With a thought, the black turtle constellation wok emerged. With a bang, it was placed on the wooden shelf. Many people around made a sound of surprise, wondering what Bu Fong was going to do. In the distance, Mo Yin and Fong Yu looked at him, feeling extremely embarrassed. This the great demon. Was he really going to open a stall here? What kind of stall was he going to set up? Swish, as the banner fluttered. Many people's eyes were attracted to it. Bu Fong's face was expressionless, and the words on the banner were exposed. Fong's little stall. Are you kidding me? Is he going to set up a stall in the Forbidden Soul Square? He's very business-minded, but his behavior is stupid. The people around them were all whispering. Everyone present was here to participate in the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path, so it was impossible for them to have free time to eat at a stall. It was a waste of time to set up such a stall. Hearing the questioning voices around her, Xianyuan Xiaohui couldn't help but put on a calm face. However, Bu Fong was very calm. Looking at Bu Fong's calm face, Xianyuan Xiaohui also felt much calmer. Bu Fong's expression didn't change. After calming down, the dragon bone kitchen knife fell into his hand. A wooden stick appeared in his hand. The wooden stick flew into the air. A meteor-like knife technique was immediately displayed. Rays of blade light seemed to fall from the starry sky. In the blink of an eye, the wooden branches were shaved into slender wooden branches. Swish! Bu Fong dealt with the wooden sticks and placed them on the wooden stall. Before the competition began, many people around them crossed their arms in front of their chests and stopped to watch Bu Fong's performance. Yes, it was a performance. In their eyes, Bu Fong was like a clown. Many people recognized Bu Fong and Xianyuan Xiaohui. They were the chefs from the Heaven Chief realm. Sure enough, chefs were still chefs. They couldn't change their cooking habits. Even though they were here for the competition, they still planned to cook. Bu Fong glanced around, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up when he saw those playful gazes. Very good, swish. All of a sudden, a giant octopus appeared in Bu Fong's hand. Bu Fong grabbed the octopus with one hand. The giant octopus curled up and seemed to be wiggling. His mind flickered. Instantly, the dragon bone kitchen knife turned into a shooting star, smashing down. The octopus was instantly cut into pieces. His mind flickered, and he clenched his fingers, flicking them. Instantly, the wooden sticks on the shelf shot up into the sky. Those octopus tentacles flew up, tap, tap, tap. Then, the wrapped octopus tentacles fell on the wooden stall. The black turtle constellation wok was originally dented. However, as it was a god of cooking set, it naturally had its own magical properties. Under the control of Bufong's mind, the black turtle constellation walks slowly protruded, turning into a flat surface. Xin Yuan Xiaohe was dumbfounded. What was Owner Bu going to do? Owner Bu, what are you going to do? Xin Yuan Xiaohe was bewildered. Oh, hang up the banner. Bufong glanced at Xin Yuan Xiaohe. Then, he seemed to remember something. He threw a banner to Xin Yuan Xiaohe while he continued to work. Xin Yuan Xiaohe suppressed the curiosity in his heart. Carrying the banner, he walked to the side of the wooden stall and set up the banner. Swish, the banner rolled down. Soon, the words and content on it were reflected in people's eyes. The gazes of many people in the surroundings were attracted. Fong Fong Little Stall, first day's dish, teppanyaki. Recipe: teppanyaki octopus, tentacles, teppanyaki squid, teppanyaki dragon liver, teppanyaki dragon claw, teppanyaki demon doll meat, teppanyaki dragon tail. Price: 10 immortal crystals, nether crystals per skewer. Good quality and low price. First come, first served. Big sale on the first day of business. The first 10 customers will enjoy a 1% discount. The information on the banner was huge. Many people were bewildered. Even Xin Yuan Xiaohe, who was hanging the banner, was bewildered. Then he sucked in a breath of cold air. Teppanyaki? What's that? Xin Yuan Xiaohe was totally confused. He knew about hot pot. He had seen Owner Bu's hot pot cooking. His creativity shocked everyone. Not only hot pot, but also barbecue. When he saw the wooden skewers, he thought Owner Bu wanted a barbecue. But now, it seemed that was not the case. Besides, first day's dish? Was there going to be a second day's dish? When the people around saw the banner, they also burst into an uproar. Disdainful laughter rose one after another. Many people were even laughing at him. 10 immortal crystals per skewer. Why didn't this guy just rob a bank? Although the people present were all monstrous geniuses from different realms, and some were even the leaders of their respective teams, they were not short of money. However, money didn't grow on trees. A small skewer cost 10 immortal crystals. Did he really think they were fools? Many people had made up their minds that they would not buy Bufong's dishes anymore. They wanted to make this chef from the Heaven Chief realm cry. In the crowd, Yuqi also saw Bufong's behavior. The corners of her mouth twitched. This guy was really stirring up trouble. Yu stood quietly behind Bufong, her eyes bright, as if she was looking forward to the teppanyaki Bufong mentioned. Yu had been with Bufong for the longest time. She knew very well that every time Bufong took out a new dish, he would not let them down. Teppanyaki seemed to be delicious. Bufong didn't care about the mocking and disdainful voices around him. If they hadn't eaten it, how would they know the charm of teppanyaki? A skewer of squid was as cool as an immortal. When the ingredients were ready, Bufong twitched the corner of his mouth. He took a step back. His mind flickered. A mass of white flame shot out from his mouth. Sizzle, on the black tortoise iron plate, steam rose. At this moment, the drawing of lots in the arena had officially begun. Chapter 12:37. In everyone's eyes, this new stall in the square was like a joke. Teppanyaki, this strange name, basically no one had heard of it. Who would want to make quick money with this kind of dish that came out of nowhere? If you want to make money and satisfy people's appetite, you should at least choose some famous dishes, like the roasted Tyrannosaurus thigh of the Vajra region, or the Pudu vegetarian rice of the West Little Buddhist sect, or even the wine of the abyss, or the blood river fish of hell. At least this kind of food could attract people. Teppanyaki, they had never heard of it. It was precisely because they had never heard of it that it became a joke in everyone's eyes. It was especially so for the banner that Bufong had hung up. The words on the banner made the mocking voices even more intense. How could anyone be stupid enough to buy a string of 10 immortal crystals? Besides, now that the competition was about to start, who would have the leisure to eat this thing? Mo Yin and Fong Yu, watching from a distance, couldn't help but hold their foreheads, feeling helpless. The Great Demon had really fallen. The legendary Great Demon was really nothing more than this. Why would the Realm Lord send such a person to participate in such an important competition? Wasn't this a joke? This was totally a plan to make the Heaven Chief realm a laughing stock in the surrounding world. But Bufang didn't seem to care about the eyes of the people around him at all. Instead, he concentrated on his cooking. Teppanyaki. This was a kind of food from small stalls. Of course, there were also high-end shops that specialized in cooking teppanyaki. However, in the final analysis, teppanyaki still had the atmosphere of a small stall. A large group of people surrounded an iron plate, watching the chef work on it, and all kinds of rich aroma and heat escaped from it. The oil was splashing, and the ingredients were shaking. That kind of feeling was very unforgettable. Teppanyaki was actually a kind of food with a lot of smoke and fire. In fact, the food from some high-end restaurants was also very good, but compared with the food from small stalls, it always lacked a bit of smoke and fire. The feeling of superiority would make the food lose some of its taste. On the contrary, the food from small stalls on the street could make people involuntarily immersed and unable to extricate themselves. This was the charm of different kinds of food. Sizzle. Under the control of Bufang, the black turtle constellation Wok turned into the black turtle iron plate. Along with the heat of the flame, the temperature of the steel plate continued to rise. The scorching heat spread out, causing the temperature of the black tortoise steel plate to increase. Faint smoke filled the air. Bufang glanced at the people around him. When he saw the disdainful gazes, the corners of his mouth twitched. She rolled up the sleeves of her vermilion robe, revealing her fair arms. Bufang grabbed a small plate placed on the wooden stall. He grabbed the plate and gently threw it out. Immediately, the oil splashed out and splashed on the iron plate. A flat spatula was held by Bufang. It continuously rubbed against the black tortoise steel plate, causing the oil to spread across the surface. Very quickly, the scalding oil began to evaporate as an oil fragrance filled the air. He grabbed 3 strands of octopus tentacles. He placed the 3 strands of octopus tentacles on the black tortoise steel plate. As soon as they were placed on the plate, they began to boil, and the sizzling sound echoed unceasingly. Under the effect of the oil, the octopus fat emitted a thick fragrance. At first, the smell wasn't obvious, and the aroma wasn't as strong as expected. Seeing that Bufang could actually start cooking under so many disdainful gazes, many people were a little surprised. They stared at Bufang. Many of them were a little curious, and Bufang's movements were very skillful. The 3 strands of octopus tentacles were placed on the iron plate. Under the effect of the oil, they sizzled. Juices and water oozed out of it. In an instant, the water began to boil like bursting bubbles. What? The eyes of Xianyuan Xiaohui, who was the closest, instantly brightened. She took a deep breath. Very fragrant. Very fragrant. The ingredient had just been placed on the plate, and such a thick fragrance had already spread out. Owner Bu had indeed made a new move. The flat spatula was held in Bufang's hand. Bufang straightened his back, not stopping his movements. He used the spatula to press the octopus tentacles, making the liquid seep out more. The more the liquid seeped out, the stronger the fragrance. Bufang held 3 strands of octopus tentacles in one hand. When the fragrance drifted out, the color of the octopus tentacles also changed. Bufang, on the other hand, turned the octopus tentacle over. On the other side of the iron plate, the sizzling sound rang out. The milky white liquid seeped out as if it was about to explode. Bufang looked at the flip side. That side had turned pink, which seemed to arouse his appetite. But it was just the beginning. Although teppanyaki didn't seem to require any skills, the control of the fire and the details were very delicate. There was no room for mistakes. Xianyuan Xiaohui stared at it. She suddenly felt that the food that Owner Bu had made this time might not be ordinary. Perhaps it wouldn't be as phenomenal as the hot pot, but at least it was easy to make this competition boil. Sizzle. Both sides of the octopus tentacles had turned pink. Because of the rising steam, the tentacles seemed to be trembling slowly. And at this time, the fragrance was already very strong. It was the original fragrance of the ingredient. The fragrance slowly drifted out, causing the faces of the people who had been watching the stall to change. So fragrant. This smell is a little tempting. Gulp. Why do I feel like I can't control my emotions? What a strange smell. It seems to be unexpectedly fragrant. The surrounding people all stared at Bu Fong's stall. The disdain in their eyes slowly disappeared. Perhaps they were tempted by the fragrance, but they couldn't help but put away their disdain. They took a deep breath. Instantly, the fragrance was like a small snake drilling into their mouths and noses. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. All of a sudden, Bu Fong's movements increased. The three skewers suddenly swung over, patting on the black tortoise iron plate. Moreover, the flat spatula was constantly pressing the octopus tentacles. Every time it was pressed, the sizzling sound would dim a little. However, as soon as he let go, the fragrance instantly surged. Boom! Bu Fong's movements didn't stop. His face didn't change. He grabbed a small long tube bottle placed at the side of the wooden stall. His thumb pressed on the opening of the long tube bottle. Gulp! Bu Fong clasped one hand, taking a step back. The hand that was holding the long tube suddenly swung. Instantly, the liquid in the bottle shot out with a sizzling sound. It sprinkled on the octopus tentacles. Sizzle, sizzle. In an instant, misty steam rose. The people who had been staring at Bu Fong's movements instantly burst into an uproar. Apparently, they were shocked by the burst of steam. Of course, most of them were attracted by the fragrance of wine and meat in the air. The wine fragrance was mellow, and the meat fragrance was rich. When they blended together, it seemed like two kinds of unique silk threads were entwined together. Bu Fong narrowed his eyes, his heart suddenly surging with excitement. His mind flickered. A chili strip instantly appeared at the corner of his mouth. Half squinting his eyes, Bu Fong bent his finger and flicked. A drop of golden oil instantly soared up into the sky. The oil drop was perfectly round, floating above the black tortoise iron plate. At this moment, everyone's eyes were attracted by that perfectly round drop of golden oil. Everyone widened their eyes in disbelief. In the next instant, Bu Fong suddenly flicked his finger. That golden oil drop instantly whistled down. Breaking through the rising smoke, it ruthlessly smashed on the iron plate. Suddenly, it splashed and shattered, and the oil spilled on it. Boom! It was like a small explosion. Flames suddenly surged, like a dragon leaping up. An uproar suddenly broke out. So cool. So beautiful. It looks so good. I can't believe the aroma of wine and meat are so perfectly combined. My appetite has been whetted. The surrounding people were shocked and spoke in amazement. As Bu Fong moved, the aroma wafted in the air, attracting many people. The aroma was so tempting that many people turned their heads and looked over. Zhu Yan walked out of the arena in a daze. His face was pale. The result of the draw had made him feel a little desperate. As the captain, he was responsible for drawing lots for the team competition. There were a total of more than 30 small worlds participating in the team competition. Some of these small worlds were strong, while others were weak. Of course, he hoped to draw a weak world. If he drew a powerful world like the Vajra region, Wingman Valley, or West Little Buddhist sect, it would definitely be a nightmare. However, he did not end up in the Vajra realm, but the world that he drew was not a weak world. The Blackwind continent. It was a continent near the abyss. There were 5 contestants, 3 of whom were half-step saints and 2 9-star true immortals. It was definitely a nightmare for the Heaven Chief realm. They were basically all 6-star true immortals. Why were all the contestants in this competition so strong? Zhu Yan felt a little desperate. He thought that he could show his strength in this Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path with great confidence. However, in the first team competition, he had drawn such powerful existences. This made him feel a little depressed. He had let down Realm Lord Dit and City Lord Mingqi. He walked back like a puppet, holding the number tag and the jade token for the team competition in his hand. He clenched them tightly. Suddenly, a fragrance wafted into his nose. Zhu Yan paused. His pupils constricted. The next moment, he raised his head and looked into the distance. There layers and layers of people gathered around them. Zhu Yan slipped into the crowd. Zhu Yan immediately saw Bu Fong, who was setting up a stall. Once again, he fell silent. How could he set up a stall during the competition? What was the point of this competition? The great demon was also unreliable. This time, there was really no hope. On the other side, the Mo Yin and Fong Yu stared at Bu Fong eagerly, their eyes flashing with bright gleams. More and more people came back from the draw, and they all gathered around. They were all shocked by the fragrance of the stall. Bu Fong's eyes were sharp. With a spicy strip dangling from the corner of his mouth, he waved his hand. Immediately, a round jar spun in his hand. Drops of spices drifted out and sprinkled on the octopus tentacles, making them look inexplicably attractive. They glistened with oil, and the oil splashed. The fragrance was tempting. The teppanyaki octopus is ready. Bu Fong put down the flat spatula, grabbed 3 skewers of octopus tentacles, and said faintly. His voice was not loud, but it rang out in all directions. It brought the people who were immersed in his cooking process back to their senses. Here, try it first. Bu Fong handed an octopus tentacle to you. You couldn't wait to take it. She opened her small pink mouth and bit on the hot octopus tentacle. Her small mouth seemed to be unable to hold it, and the octopus tentacle's tail was swaying. As soon as it entered her mouth, the aroma exploded in her mouth, like an aroma bomb bombarding the oral wall. Yu's eyes widened, and her mouth bulged. The corners of her mouth were stained with sauce. Munch, munch, Nethery chewed unceasingly, and her face became red. It was delicious. Yu was amazed. There are 2 more skewers left. The first 10 customers will enjoy a 1% discount. In other words, 1 skewer will only cost 1 immortal crystal. Bu Fong said. He glanced at the crowd of people in front of the stall. Would anyone buy it? Many people were watching her eat, and they were all swallowing their saliva. They swallowed their saliva, but they still stopped. If no one bought it, they wouldn't buy it. However, they soon realized that they were wrong. Give me a skewer. It's so king fragrant. I'm dying of cravings. As soon as Bu Fong's voice rang out, an impatient voice rang out from the crowd. Then, a young monk in a yellow Buddhist robe stepped out of the crowd. Saliva dripped from the corners of his mouth as he stared at the skewer of octopus tentacles in Bu Fong's hand. Wow, he's a monk from the West Little Buddhism realm. Can monks eat meat too? Do octopus tentacles count as meat? I guess so. The appearance of the little monk caused an uproar among the crowd. After paying the immortal crystals, the little monk took the octopus tentacle from Bu Fong and impatiently stuffed it into his mouth. His mouth was covered with oil, and the corners of his mouth were stained with sauce. An uproar broke out. The crowd was pushed aside. A few monks in yellow Buddhist robes squeezed in. When they saw the little monk eating octopus tentacles, they were speechless. Junior brother F.A. Shang, stop eating. It's our turn for the team competition. Senior brother F.A. Wu, have a taste. It's delicious. The little monk's eyes were bright. With sauce on the corners of his mouth, he handed the remaining octopus tentacles to the monks who had squeezed through the crowd. Okay. Let's go to the competition after eating, okay? After all, this is the first show of our West Little Buddhism realm. We can't embarrass ourselves. Senior brother F.A. Wu said helplessly. Senior brother F.A. Wu said helplessly. He could only dote on this little junior brother of his. When he saw the steaming octopus tentacle that F.A. Shang handed him, his nose twitched. He opened his mouth and ate a piece of octopus tentacle. Damn it, it feels so good. Boss, give me another skewer. Oh no, 10 more. Chapter 1238. The East Island realm was lucky enough to defeat the West Little Buddhism realm. Many people in the square were in an uproar. They curiously looked at their own figures on the light screen, and some even waved their hands excitedly. Looking indifferently at the charging East Island realm experts, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. The little monk F.A. Shang, who was the first to arrive, put his palms together and said to the people around him, Buddha said that octopus tentacles are not meat. For a moment, the others forgot to tell the West Little Buddhism realm's monk about the competition. Then, puff, the cultivation bases of the prison generals were slightly lower, ranging from 9-star true immortals to half-step saints. in the crowd. Now, please enter the arena for the first team match. The West Little Buddhism Realm versus the East Island Realm. The visual impact of 10 skewers of octopus tentacles was very strong. The referee in charge of the match was a commander, a monk, his body glowing with a dazzling golden light, put on a bright red kasaya and floated up from the crowd. The experts of the East Island Realm roared. The screen is here. Puff, did he really have to give up? Stinky bald donkey. Fight! It was the first time that the immortal chefs of the immortal cooking realm had encountered such a novel thing. Everyone was very curious. They moved their chairs, sat in front of the light screen, and circled around it to watch the scene. Bufong said. A blast of air rose. The golden light faded away. This monk eats meat, and he even brought meat to the arena. The West Little Buddhism Realm was the first contestant of today's team match. The people around them were dumbfounded when they heard their senior monk eat a mouthful of octopus tentacles and shout, 10 more skewers. As the array fell, one figure after another appeared on the light screen. Commander Mo Yuan suddenly frowned. Impossible. This doesn't fit the West Little Buddhism Realm's concept. Although the East Island Realm is strong, they shouldn't be afraid of it at all. Fei Wu flicked his finger. Immediately, the slender branch that Bufong had cut was covered with a layer of golden light. Buzz, this must be great. I can eat delicious food without delaying the match. Perfect. Fei Wu grinned. The head of the small monk beside him also grinned foolishly and nodded repeatedly. The Heaven Chief Realms, Heaven Chief Realms, Heaven Chief Realm. Everyone was hugging their delicacies and looking at the screen happily. The surroundings of the arena had long since been surrounded by groups of people. 10 strings of octopus tentacles fell into his hands. Even the scene of the arena was projected perfectly on the screen. Slurp, slurp, it was extremely comfortable. The most important point was many people around them couldn't help but smack their lips. Bah, I'm going to be late for the match. My sins, my sins. Don't say that octopus tentacles are not meat. Golden light instantly blossomed. Senior Marshal Brother Fei Wu greedily took a deep breath. Immediately, the fragrance drilled into their mouths and noses, making them feel as if flowers were blooming in their hearts. A fragrant aroma wafted over. The oil splashed onto the black tortoise iron plate, and immediately hot steam rose up, bursting out of it. Commander Mo Yuan said. His voice echoed for a long time. The entire square was in an uproar. Just a string of octopus tentacles captured you? Benefactor, the octopus tentacles you made are delicious. As if meeting Bufong's eyes, Senior Marshal Brother Fei Wu raised his hand, put his palms together, and bowed solemnly. After all, it was a top-grade projection array that Earth Prison had specially prepared for the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path. The next moment, his aura skyrocketed. Sizzle, slowly landing on the ground. The dazzling red kasaya on his body turned and walked down the arena. Fei Wu, on the other hand, took his time. They were all the top experts of the West Little Buddhism Realm. Fei Wu put his palms together, nodded slightly, and licked the corner of his mouth. In the blink of an eye, sizzling steam billowed out of the arena. Senior Marshal Brother Fei Wu's eyes lit up. I can take it away. For the East Island Realm, this was simply bad luck. Among them, there was a precious long-distance projection array. It looked like it was delicious. Everyone's eyes went wide, and they couldn't help but feel deeply embarrassed. The array was very precious, for it could project images of Earth Prison onto the light screen. Commander Mo Yuan's face was cold, and he was clad in a dark red robe. His hair was grayish-white, but he exuded a murderous aura. Fei Wu said with a kind look on his face. This chef was cooking 10 skewers of octopus tentacles at the same time. The experts of the East Island Realm roared. Wine and meat go through the intestines, but Buddha stays in the heart. Benefactor, calm down. One of the Buddhas seemed somewhat dissatisfied. He took a step forward, and like a dragon, he charged toward Fei Wu, who was sitting cross-legged in midair and eating teppanyaki octopus skewers. Huge Buddhas with golden bodies stared at the light screen with deep eyes. There seemed to be chanting Buddhist hymns and flying dragons and phoenixes. They took the 10 skewers of steaming octopus tentacles from Bu Fong with smiles on their faces, and their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Moreover, the following scene made them feel extremely amazed. A loud uproar came from the crowd. When he threw out a punch, the wind and clouds kicked up, and dust rose into the sky. The commanders were basically either First Revolution Little Saint or Second Revolution Little Saint. Although the West Little Buddhism realm was a world of monks, these monks were not to be trifled with. Their overall strength was not inferior to nether prisons. Rip! The East Island realm expert threw out a punch and collided with the branches. In the square of Heaven Chief Hall, the experts of the East Island realm had already begun to laugh excitedly. Did the West Little Buddhism realm choose to give up the first round? The people around them were speechless. He rolled his tongue and swallowed the last octopus tentacle. As for the Earth Prison overlords, they were stronger. The man who asked the question almost coughed up a mouthful of blood. His eyes swept across the entire place, taking in everyone's gazes. With a thought, he wriggled. Oil seeped out of the corners of his mouth. Then he smacked his lips. One branch after another shot down from the sky. Suddenly, the flowers trembled and rumbled like thunder. All the novice monks stared at the light screen with puzzled and indignant faces. On the screen, Commander Mo Yuan was shouting the name of the West Little Buddhism realm over and over again. As the captain, he was responsible for being the first to fight. It was an extraordinary scene. Although Bu Fong's stall kept giving off a fragrant aroma, it could not attract the attention of all the people in the square. The monks of the West Little Buddhism realm couldn't help but take a deep breath and immerse themselves in the aroma, unable to extricate themselves. One by one, they plunged into the East Island realm expert's body, rendering him unable to move. When they walked out of the arena in the future, they could stand tall and say that the East Island realm had also defeated the West Little Buddhism realm. In the arena, however, puff. The sound of chewing rang clearly in everyone's ears at this moment. It sounded like the roar of a divine dragon, and a golden light towered into the sky. Where are the contestants from the West Little Buddhism realm? Nether Prison was obviously very concerned about the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path, so it had prepared all kinds of tricks. Ba, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Didn't they say they were going to fight for the glory of the West Little Buddhism realm? There will be a team competition in this year's Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path. The rules of the team competition are different from those of the individual competition. There will be 5 contestants in each team competition, and they can fight 5 times. The team that wins 3 matches will qualify for the next round, and the team will advance to the next round. After all, Nether Prison had the ambition to melt the surrounding world and turn it into the great Netherworld. Rumble. Of course, still, no one entered the arena. Buzz, of course, as a chef's paradise. How could they miss food while watching the light screen? The battle was about to begin. If they hadn't seen the skewer of octopus tentacles dripping with golden juice in the monk's hand, they might have been fooled by F.A. Wu's avatar. Bu Fong's face was indifferent. Since they were his customers, he would cook for them. His kind face made him look like a Buddha who had descended to the world. After so long, the contestants still hadn't entered the arena, which was a provocation to him. They spread out in front of the group of monks standing in front of the stall. The West Little Buddhism realm has gone too far. Are they food? Are they looking down on the East Island realm? In the center of the square was a group of people standing around a waterside pavilion. The ends of the wooden branches were swaying in the Heaven Chief realm. He pinched a flower with his fingers and flicked his fingers. A monk? He grabbed an octopus tentacle, stuffed it into his mouth, and chewed. The aura of a demon ape gradually spread out of him, making the surrounding experts who were watching the competition feel refreshed. What a great honor it would be if word got out. The square was very large. The captain's cultivation base was very good. He was a 1 revolution little saint, and his strength was very strong. Didn't he say he was going to participate in the competition? Could it be such a good thing? Their competition had attracted the attention of countless people. Above the prison overlords was Hades. 10 skewers. A ripple from the array formation spread out and projected onto the arena. A ripping sound rang out. Rays of dazzling golden light blossomed in all directions. Oil spilled and sparks sputtered. There seemed to be flames swimming on the iron plate. The experts from the East Island realm were so happy that their faces were almost blooming. Junior brother F.A. Shang also stared blankly at his senior brother. Sure enough, this octopus tentacle is delicious. He slowly walked onto the stage, holding the octopus skewers in his hand. The faces of the monks, who were looking at the octopus tentacles enviously in his hand, changed. Then they shot out. Bufong threw the 10 skewers onto the black tortoise iron plate. They didn't expect to win the first team competition like this. It was a good start. The light screen was constructed from several talisman stones and formed into a mysterious formation. The formation was constantly emitting rays of light, one after another, forming the light screen. F.A. Wu's expression remained unchanged. He was still floating in midair with a kind face. These octopus tentacles were definitely not ordinary. The prison overlords, who were watching the competition from a distance, also frowned. They wanted to taste it, too. It was a huge screen of light that was projected onto it. Ba, the taste is perfect, but a little spicy. Meanwhile, in the West Little Buddhism realm, monk, doesn't your realm have the most precepts? Aren't you afraid of breaking the precepts? If the contestants from the West Little Buddhism realm don't come onto the stage, they'll be judged as forfeiting. Bufong raised his head in surprise, glanced at F.A. Wu, and raised his eyebrows. After a while, as their breathing quickened, the scene on the screen suddenly changed. Fragrance, smoke, and heat enveloped the whole square. The experts from the East Island realm widened their eyes and opened their mouths, not knowing what to say. Suddenly, the experts from the East Island realm were already furious. However, he didn't relax at all. Commander Mo Yuan gave F.A. Wu a cold look. When he saw the octopus tentacles in the latter's hand, his eyes narrowed. Therefore, the business of the surrounding stalls was booming. Because of this, the people in the Heaven Chief realm could watch the competition in Earth Prison as soon as possible. The experts from the East Island realm roared. Suddenly, at this moment, their captain was annoyed with his bad luck. As soon as he finished speaking, he paid the immortal crystals to Bufong. City Lord Mingqi, Zhou Lords, and City Lord Gongshu Baiguang were all sitting in chairs in front of the light screen. With their noble status, they naturally enjoyed the best view. So many people. Are these all contestants from different realms? In the square. Therefore, more people were paying attention to the team competition in the arena. However, he was powerlessly pierced by the wooden branch, and his entire body was nailed to the arena alive. A thunderclap rang out in his head. Obviously, many people didn't understand why the West Little Buddhism realm was late. Senior brother F.A. Wu grabbed 10 skewers of octopus tentacles, lifted his monk robe, and rushed toward the arena. At first, they were hesitant, but when they saw the monks order crazily after eating a skewer, they understood. His voice was a little hoarse, and it spread throughout the square. Not far from the center of the square, light curtains appeared one after another. These light curtains were projected by the formation. An uproar broke out in the crowd. Behind the heads of these Buddhas, green light discs emerged. The aroma wafted into their nostrils, and it smelled very good. Many Heaven Chief realms had gathered here. In the square, all kinds of stalls bloomed like flowers, decorating the crowd. In front of the West Little Buddhist Pagoda, Earth Prison had a strict hierarchy. From the lowest to the highest, there were prison general, commander, and prison overlord. In front of Fong Fong's little stall, however, they were unlucky. They had drawn the West Little Buddhism realm for the first round. Senior brother F.A. Wu, don't be like this. Now that F.A. Wu was holding the octopus tentacles, he looked a little funny. So this is Earth Prison. It seems to be very vast. Not only the monks, but the people around them were also in an uproar, drooling. The first team match had finally begun. They had picked up a small world that could make it to the top 3 in the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path. How arrogant. Suddenly, there was a stalemate. Your team match is coming up soon. Even if the owner makes the octopus tentacles, you can't eat them. Someone couldn't help but ask when he saw the group of monks who were almost drooling. How could monks eat meat? Okay, if it's delicious, you should eat more. My stall has teppanyaki, and you can take it out. There was a strong aroma of meat in the hot air, which was extremely tempting. The scene was very cool. Another branch shot out. Commander Mo Yuan said coldly. The East Island realm was considered a good small world among the small worlds around the Netherworld, and it was guarded by the great sage. However, no one responded. How could a Buddha Lord say such nonsense? Why don't you go to heaven? Commander Mo Yuan said. In the West Little Buddhism realm, many people around were speechless. Chapter 1239. The battle ended as quickly as it started. A few twigs shot down, and the East Island expert was instantly nailed to the ground by F.A. Wu. Of course, F.A. Wu didn't kill anyone. He just nailed the East Island expert to the arena. The ends of the twigs swayed slowly. The faces of the East Island experts were ashen. They didn't expect the battle to end so quickly. Many experts behind the light screens widened their eyes as they watched the scene unfold. The leader of the East Island realm was a little saint expert, but he was defeated so easily. Although the earlier battle seemed to have happened in the blink of an eye, in reality, the confrontation within it was very profound. Whether it was the confrontation of momentum, strength, or mental force, it was a very dangerous situation. Of course, in the end, F.A. Wu defeated the East Island leader's momentum, overpowered his strength, and crushed his mental force. That was why the little saint was nailed to the ground. Although it was not a life-and-death battle, the result was cruel. The East Island leader's eyes were dull, and he seemed to have lost his soul. The first victory came so naturally, and he even won while eating octopus skewers. This kind of leisurely and contented state made the experts of the East Island realm feel helpless. After all, the West Little Buddhism realm is indeed powerful. After the first match, there was a break of about 10 minutes, during which the winning team could choose to let the winning contestant continue to guard the arena or send a new contestant. No matter what, as long as they won 3 matches, they would win the team competition. F.A. Wu initially wanted to let his junior brothers experience the atmosphere of the competition, but when he turned around, he realized that none of his junior brothers were around. The corner of F.A. Wu's mouth twitched, and he touched his bald head. He didn't need to think to know that his junior brothers should be around the stall. For the sake of food, they really don't care about the competition. F.A. Wu sighed helplessly. In the end, he could only continue to stand in the arena. However, to him, this was not a difficult task. With his strength, he could easily defeat the whole East Island realm. Therefore, the battle was one-sided. F.A. Wu swept across the audience without any hesitation. His relaxed look made the entire East Island realm feel extremely frustrated. It was their bad luck to run into the West Little Buddhism realm. There was no doubt about the outcome. They didn't have any hope in the team competition. They had lost so badly that they didn't even have a chance to advance. They could only place their hopes on individual battles. Only a personal battle could help them regain face for the East Island realm and show the strength of the East Island realm. If they hadn't met the West Little Buddhism realm, they would have gone further in the team competition. In front of the stall, long lines were lined up. Bufong held a chili strip in his mouth. He squinted his eyes and cooked skillfully. His movements were extremely skillful. In the surroundings, many people were holding skewers of steaming hot and fragrant octopus tentacles in their hands. Their faces were brimming with happiness. Sizzle. Oil splattered everywhere as the octopus tentacles were sucked into their mouths. The chewy and elastic texture caused their eyes to widen in shock. It was so delicious that it made people enjoy it so much that they forgot to leave. After finishing his skewer, the people went back to the back of the line. Xinyuan Xiaohui swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His face was full of disbelief. He turned his head to look at Bufong, who was extremely calm, and his heart was filled with stormy waves. The great demon was still the great demon. Everything was under his control. He had once again created a miracle. In this foreign country, the great demon had conquered everyone with the charm of delicious food. Of course, most importantly, as he watched the immortal crystals go into his bag, Xianyuan Xiaowei was a little dumbfounded. Each skewer cost 10 immortal crystals. Owner Bu cooked at least 10 skewers at a time, and sometimes he cooked 30 skewers at a time. That was 300 immortal crystals in one go. He had thought that a small stall could make a lot of profit, but now it seemed that he was wrong, very wrong. The profit of the stall was beyond his imagination. What's more, only Owner Bu's stall was big here. Seeing the greasy mouths of the people around them and their excited looks made Xianyuan Xiaohui breathe a long sigh of relief. Sure enough, it was right to believe in Owner Bu. Mo Yin and Fong Yu were already stunned and in a state of confusion. The development of things seemed to be completely beyond their expectations. I can't believe the great Demon King has really set up this stall and publicized the delicacies of the immortal cooking realm. Zhu Yan's eyes were full of disbelief, and he even looked a little funny. He couldn't help but be shocked when he saw that the great demon's business was booming and that the great demon's hand retired from receiving so many immortal crystals. However, Zhu Yan's face quickly returned to normal, and he even looked a little desperate. What was the use of running a stall well? If they lost the competition, they could only go back home. It was not a big deal to go back to the Heaven Chief realm, but the main thing was that he would become a laughing stock and not be able to avenge the humiliation. Moreover, he had wanted to show the dignity of the Heaven Chief realm, but now he could only become a joke. How could he not feel sad? The next match is the team match. Heaven Chief Realm versus the Black Wind Continent. Commander Mo Yuan said in the arena. As soon as his voice faded away, the crowd below the arena, who had been watching the match, began to murmur and whisper to each other. The Heaven Chief Realm was a very famous world around. After all, it used to be no weaker than the Nether Prison. Of course, the Heaven Chief Realm had declined now, and it no longer lived up to its former reputation. But that didn't stop others from being curious about it. The Blackwind Continent was a continent around the abyss, and its strength was considered below average in this Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path. For a real top world, the Blackwind Continent was pitifully weak. But for the Heaven Chief Realm, it was not weak at all. In fact, it could even be said to be a formidable enemy that was difficult to resist. The main reason was that Dit didn't send any real experts to take over the Heaven Chief Realm this time. In the distance, Zhu Yin stood in front of the stall. Zhu Yan's face turned pale when he heard Commander Mo Yuan's words. Mo Yin and Fong Yu also heard Commander Mo Yuan's words and stared at Zhu Yin with widened eyes. It's our turn. Mo Yin and Fong Yu suddenly became nervous. It was impossible for them not to be nervous since it was their first time participating in such a tournament. They were so shocked by the great demon's actions that they didn't have time to be nervous. Now that they had recovered from their shock, their bodies were trembling. Tell the great demon, we'll go over first. Zhu Yin glanced at Bufong, who was busy cooking and collecting immortal crystals. A look of speechlessness flashed across his face. After saying that to Mo Yin, he walked toward the arena with Fong Yu. Mo Yin paused. It wasn't until Zhu Yin and Fong Yu left that she came to her senses. Then, she turned to look at Bufong, looking at the great demon, who kept shouting to a group of people with a spicy strip dangling from his mouth. She suddenly felt a little scared. What's wrong? Xianyuan Xiaohui glanced at the hesitant Mo Yin and asked with a frown. It's our turn for the team competition. Zhu Yin and Fong Yu have gone to compete. They asked me to inform the great demon. Mo Yin said. Xianyuan Xiaohui nodded. Who are our opponents? How strong are they? Xianyuan Xiaohui asked again. The Blackwind Continent has 3 half-step saints and 2 9-star true immortals. Mo Yin said. After that, she fell silent. Xianyuan Xiaohui nodded. The Blackwind Continent's strength was enough to crush them. It seemed that the great demon would have to make a move. After all, it was a team competition, and the honor of the Heaven Chief realm was at stake. Xianyuan Xiaohui didn't dare to act recklessly. However, before she could open her mouth, Bu Fong continued to cook the octopus tentacles. The wine spilled, the flames rose, and the majestic sound kept ringing in people's ears. Well, go and watch the competition. When the two of them lose, call me over. I'm busy now. With a spicy strip dangling from his mouth, Bu Fong said without turning his head. That gave Xianyuan Xiaohui pause, but she nodded quickly. Then, she took Mo Yin and ran toward the arena in the distance. Bu Fong looked at the back of the two of them with an indifferent expression. Boss, give me 10 more skewers. Okay. When Zhu Yin stepped into the arena, the whole audience burst into laughter. It was because of Zhu Yan's swollen face. Because of the skillful use of force by the Vajra realm expert, the scars on Zhu Yan's face had not yet faded. Zhu Yan's face turned red because he had been holding back his anger. Ha! Is this the Heaven Chief of the Heaven Chief realm? Does he look like a pig? Did he get beaten up before he even got on the stage? I heard that this is the leader of the Heaven Chief realm. The former Heaven Chief realm has really declined. The laughter of the people around rang out incessantly. Ha ha ha! Did you see that? I was the one who beat up that little worm. Wasn't it very skillful? The Vajra realm expert laughed in the distance, and his laughter seemed to set off waves. It caused the people around him to burst into laughter. Zhu Yan's face turned green and red, and he glared at the Vajra realm expert. In the Heaven Chief realm, in the square, in front of the light screen, everyone was panting violently. None of them had expected that the contestant from the Heaven Chief realm would end up in such a miserable state as soon as he got on the stage. It seemed a little different from what they had imagined. The face of the Zhu family head was so gloomy that it was almost dripping water. Naturally, he was furious that a disciple of his family had been humiliated like this. This was the humiliation of the Heaven Chief realm. Fight! Beat them up! Show the might of the Heaven Chief realm. Beat them to death. Damn it! Chop them with kitchen knives. The Heaven Chief realm's Heaven Chief realm experts were even more indignant, and their blood seemed to have been ignited. On the light screen, the curtains of the battle slowly unfolded. The Black Wind continent had underestimated its opponent. After all, Zhu Yan's strength was only at the 6-star true immortal realm, which was not interesting at all. Therefore, the Black Wind continent sent the weakest 9-star true immortal realm expert to participate. Even the weakest 9-star true immortal realm expert didn't take Zhu Yin seriously at all. The Heaven Chief realm was just SOSO. Outside the arena, Mo Yin and Fong Yu still had hope. Zhu Yin had a trump card. When they set off, the aristocratic families had given them good things. Since they had placed their hopes on him, he naturally had more good things. But, sure enough, Zhu Yan's expression changed. As soon as he entered his fighting state, he became serious. Knife light flashed. An ice blue kitchen knife suddenly appeared. The moment the kitchen knife appeared, the entire arena turned into an ice-cold ice field. It was extremely cold. A supreme-grade immortal tool. The 9-star true immortal realm expert from the Black Wind continent narrowed his eyes and took a deep breath. He looked greedily at the kitchen knife in Zhu Yan's hand. The Heaven Chief realm was indeed the Heaven Chief realm. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. A supreme-grade immortal tool was extremely precious in the Black Wind continent, but no one had expected that a 6-star true immortal realm expert from the Heaven Chief realm could have it. However, this supreme-grade immortal tool would soon belong to him. A shrill cry rang out. The expert from the Black Wind continent made his move. His figure suddenly turned into a black shadow, and a terrible aura soared into the sky, rolling up thousands of wind waves. The entire arena began to tremble. Suddenly, a gust of black wind swept over. Zhu Yan's eyes focused. With a long roar, he waved the kitchen knife in his hand and slashed out thousands of knife lights, clashing with the black wind. A 9-star true immortal realm expert against a 6-star true immortal realm expert, even if the latter had a supreme-grade immortal tool. There was no suspense in the battle. A burst of cold laughter rang out. Zhu Yan's swollen head suffered a few more blows. Blood splattered everywhere. His entire body spun 360 degrees on the spot before crashing heavily onto the stage. Blood spurted out of his mouth and nose, and his aura was weak. Under the ring, the stimulation of blood caused the onlookers to scream in excitement. The Vajra realm expert sneered. Weak. Too weak. He couldn't even handle a mere Blackwind continent expert. The Blackwind continent expert walked over to Zhu Yan, who was lying on the ground. Zhu Yan struggled to get up. However, the 9-star true immortal realm expert kicked him in the back, causing him to lie flat on the ground. Blood spurted out his mouth. You're as weak as a worm. Just lie there. The Blackwind continent expert sneered. He moved his foot sideways and tapped Zhu Yan's head, causing him to fall to the ground with a thud. The kitchen knife in his hand was also taken away by the Blackwind continent expert. Playing with the kitchen knife, the latter kicked Zhu Yan in the head. Suddenly, Zhu Yan was kicked out of the arena and sent flying. His aura was extremely weak. Xianyuan Xiaohui's face was bloodless, and she clenched her fists. No matter what, Zhu Yan was a member of the Heaven Chief Realm. The fact that he was beaten like this was a disgrace to the Heaven Chief Realm. Not to mention, perhaps the whole Heaven Chief Realm had already seen this scene. Their weakness was undisguised in front of all the people in the immortal cooking realm. This was a kind of bloody torture to their hearts. I'll go. Fang Yu was already enraged. With a roar, he stamped his foot on the ground and rushed up. Xianyuan Xiaohui took a deep look at Fang Yu, who had stepped into the arena. He asked Demo Yin to take care of Zhu Yan, then turned and walked toward the stall in the distance. Xianyuan Xiaohui knew that he wouldn't be able to defeat the experts of the Blackwind continent in terms of defense, and neither would he. However, was there really no one in the Heaven Chief Realm? No. There was still Onarbu in the Heaven Chief Realm, the great demon who could stir up a storm. Beat them. Onarbu. Thinking of the scene of Zhu Yan being beaten, Xianyuan Xiaohui felt as if there was a flame burning in his heart. At this moment, his mood suddenly surged, and he was looking forward to Onarbu's attack. What they couldn't do, the great demon could. Chapter 1240. Sizzle, the octopus tentacles were cooked. It was out of Bu Fang's expectation. However, it didn't surprise Bu Fang too much. Although there was no octopus tentacles, there were still many other meats. Demon frog meat, dragon claws, dragon tails, and so on. These ingredients tasted really good after being cooked. A piece of demon frog meat was placed on the black tortoise iron plate by Bu Fang. Instantly, sizzling steam rose, diffusing into the sky. He held the flat spatula and kept pressing on it, causing the juices inside the demon frog meat to flow out. The milky white juices dripped onto the iron plate, causing steam to rise from the iron plate and smoke to fill the air. The demon frog meat's fat aroma lingered, making people's eyes brighten. Many people drooled, staring at the piece of meat on Bu Fang's iron plate. They couldn't wait. Of course, Bu Fang was very calm. Cooking required a process, and waiting was actually a form of training. In the distance, Xianyuan Xiaohui dashed over. Her eyes were a little red, and her body was shaking. Her aura seemed a little different. The demon frog meat on the iron plate had been cooked, and it was constantly shivering. Its color was red, and the meat aroma diffused. Sizzle. Wine spilled, oil splashed, and flames shot up to the sky. On the iron plate, a big fire burned unceasingly. When Xianyuan Xiaohui arrived, her eyes seemed to be bloodshot. You're back so soon? Did they lose? Bu Fang's hands didn't stop moving, looking at Xianyuan Xiaohui suspiciously. Xianyuan Xiaohui nodded, remaining silent. Looking at Xianyuan Xiaohui's appearance, Bu Fang understood that these little fellows must have been tortured badly. As for how badly, Bu Fang wasn't sure. They lost so quickly, so it must be really bad. Of course, it was also a kind of motivation for them. If they could overcome this psychological shadow, their future achievements would be broader. Come here. Bufang exhaled softly. He waved his hand at Xianyuan Xiaohui, who was in the distance, and the latter was instantly stunned. Me? Xianyuan Xiaohui didn't seem to understand what Bufang wanted him to do. Come here and help me keep an eye on the fire. Just stabilize the current situation and wait for me to come back from the competition. Bufang said. Xianyuan Xiaohui's eyes widened. Was this even possible? What about a competition? Shouldn't they just pack up and head over to the competition? Their opponents were not small fries. The Blackwind continent had 3 half-step saints and 2 9-star true immortals. Such strength was not something they could compare with. Although he believed in Bufang, if Bufang did not show some respect, he might fail miserably. Owner Bu, Xianyuan Xiaohui panicked. However, Bufang paid no attention to him. He just handed the spatula to him. Xianyuan Xiaohui subconsciously took the spatula. Then, the look in his eyes suddenly changed. Boom. A terrifying impact suddenly bombarded his spirit. Xianyuan Xiaohui felt as though his entire body had hit the wall. He couldn't help but spurt blood from his mouth and nose. So much pressure. Taking over Bufang's dish, he instantly felt the terrifying momentum. He had always thought that Bufang's cooking level was the same as theirs, at the 3rd grade Heaven Chief level. Now it seemed he was still too young. 3rd grade Heaven Chief level? Owner Bu should have reached the level of a Chilean chef. The pressure from the dish caused beads of sweat to drip down his forehead. He didn't dare to be distracted. He was afraid that if he was distracted, he would ruin the dish. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. I need to go to a competition before coming back. Our business will be suspended for now. When I come back, we will resume. Bufang glanced at the people around him, who were looking at him with eager eyes. Then Bufang put down his sleeves, clasped his hands, and took a step forward. His figure walked toward the arena in the distance, neither fast nor slow. The surrounding people were bewildered. How could he do that? Halfway through cooking, he had to go to competition and come back. What competition? How could a competition be more important than cooking? However, of course, they didn't say that out loud. Many people followed him out of curiosity. If that young chef was beaten badly, they wouldn't have a chance to eat his dish anymore, right? That wasn't allowed. In front of the arena, a group of people surrounded it. However, as Bufang walked over, he brought another group of people with him. This group of people entered the arena in a single file. Like a river flowing into a big river, they squeezed the crowd. The noise became louder. Bufang walked slowly toward them. At his side were the monks of the West Little Buddhism realm, who were the first to compete in the team competition. When Mo Yin saw Bufang, her eyes were red, and there seemed to be tears in them. In her arms was Zhu Yan, who had been beaten into a pig's head and was bleeding from his nose and mouth. He looked extremely miserable. Bufang was silent. It was really miserable. Zhu Yan, who used to be insufferably arrogant, was now as miserable as a dead dog. For a moment, Bufang sighed. However, his heart also trembled slightly. After all, Zhu Yan was from the Heaven Chief realm, and he now represented the Heaven Chief realm, so he naturally couldn't sit back and do nothing. Moreover, when they were competing, Realm Lord Dit had asked him to take good care of this group of little fellows. In the arena, Fang Yu roared like a madman. All the bones in his body were twitching, as if they were emitting crackling sounds. The Blackwind continent expert played with the kitchen knife while using one hand to beat Fang Yu until he couldn't move. Weak. Too weak. The expert from the Blackwind continent grinned. His eyes flashed with disdain. In the distance, the Vajra realm expert laughed, his voice full of sarcasm. Not only them, but the other onlookers were also laughing. Get lost. Go back to the Heaven Chief realm. Don't come out and make a fool of yourself. If you're a chef, go cook well. Why are you participating in the competition? The sound of laughter and banter lingered in the ears of the spectators. In the Heaven Chief realm, the experts of the Heaven Chief realm, who were watching the competition through the projection array, were furious. They all clenched their fists and felt a burst of grievance. They didn't expect that the Heaven Chief realm was so weak in the outside world. They shouldn't have sent a junior. Some people from the Heaven Chief realm even roared unwillingly. The Heaven Chief realm also had a 9-star true immortal realm expert. They should have sent a 9-star true immortal realm expert to participate in the competition. City Lord Meng Qi, Zhou Lords, and the others were silent. They looked at the projection array, feeling sad and wronged. However, they suddenly understood. This was the truth that Realm Lord Dit wanted them to see. The Heaven Chief realm wasn't considered strong among the worlds around the Netherworld. The Heaven Chief realm was no longer a gentle place, and people couldn't continue to live in it. They had to feel the real law of bullying the weak in this world. This competition could stimulate the experts of the Heaven Chief realm to cultivate and enhance their cultivation base. This was the purpose of Realm Lord Dit. However, seeing the contestants of the Heaven Chief realm being beaten like this still made people feel very aggrieved. He lost. Gongshu Baiguang sighed, his eyes complicated. On the light screen, Fang Yu's body was cut by the Blackwind Continent expert with a kitchen knife he had plundered from Zhu Yan. His head was almost cut off, and he was sent flying out of the arena. Everyone in the Heaven Chief realm fell into silence. Lost, Fang Yu was also defeated. They had lost 2 matches in a row. If they lost one more match, the Heaven Chief realm's journey in the team competition would be over. It wasn't a good feeling for everyone. In fact, Fang Yu tried his best to display his powerful cultivation base, but the gap between them was still too big. The most important thing was that the opponent was too strong. The gap between a 6-star true immortal realm expert and a 9-star true immortal realm expert was too big. Puff! Fang Yu spurted a mouthful of blood. His face was ashen. Only when he walked out did he truly know how terrible the world was. In the Heaven Chief realm, he was a frog at the bottom of a well, thinking that he was strong and that he was the favored son of heaven. It turned out that, in fact, he was nothing. Fang Yu's heart was dead. All of a sudden, Fang Yu's body, which was flying backward, was supported by a gentle force, and he was slowly placed on the ground. Bu Fang clasped his hands behind his back, released his divine will, and controlled Fang Yu's body. Don't be discouraged. You're still young. Life is full of ups and downs. Bu Fang looked indifferently at Fang Yu, who was coughing up blood. Fang Yu stared blankly at Bu Fang. The Great Demon? Yes, they still had the Great Demon. Thinking of the miracles that the Great Demon had performed, he might be able to save some face for the Heaven Chief realm. However, Fang Yu was soon disappointed. Along the way, the Great Demon had given them a bad impression. He was just a Shao Bai who lived off a woman. How could such a person create any miracles? In the distance, Zhu Yan woke up. His face was complicated, and tears were streaming down his cheeks. He had lost the face of the Heaven Chief realm. He had made a fool of himself. And Mo Yin pursed her lips, her emotions complicated. Her divine will flickered. Fang Yu's figure was immediately lifted and brought to Zhu Yan's side. Zhu Yan stared at Bu Fang with his swollen eyes. Bu Fang glanced at Zhu Yan and twitched the corner of his mouth slightly. Then he clasped his hands behind his back and walked toward the arena. The third contestant of the Heaven Chief realm stepped onto the stage. In the projection array, when the whole Heaven Chief realm saw Bu Fang, after a few seconds of silence, they burst into an uproar. Wow, it's the Great Demon. It's the owner Bu. The Great Demon is here. He's going to show off the dignity of the Heaven Chief realm. The Great Demon is invincible. Everyone in the Heaven Chief realm was boiling at this moment. Now, they could only pin their hopes on the Great Demon. Even the aristocratic families, who had always disliked the Great Demon, couldn't help but clench their fists and pray nervously in their hearts. In the face of the honor and disgrace of the Heaven Chief realm, personal grudges were indeed nothing. The Great Demon would defeat them. Bu Fang stepped onto the stage. He attracted everyone's attention. The surrounding people were silent for a few seconds. Then, they burst into loud laughter. The first to laugh was the Vajra realm expert. Oh, it's that Shao Bai from the Heaven Chief realm. A little worm who relies on a woman to support him. It turns out that there are still people in the Heaven Chief realm who dare to stand out. I thought they would just give up. Boss, stop competing. Let's focus on cooking. The noise around them grew louder and louder. On the high platform, carrying the overbearing, hefty sword on her back. Yuji looked at the arena with indifferent eyes. The surrounding voices entered her ears, causing her gaze to sharpen a little. Now, she was a little curious about why Bufang dared to stand out. Bufang's cultivation base. Yuji's eyes narrowed. The Blackwind Continent expert played with Zhu Yan's ice-field kitchen knife, his eyes fixed on Bufang, a playful look on his face. Another one, courting death. The trash of the Heaven Chief realm is really endless. Well, it's good that I've lost all 3 matches. I can also become the first contestant in the Blackwind Continent who can sweep a team from a small world. The expert from the Blackwind Continent grinned. A moment later, his eyes suddenly narrowed. The icefield kitchen knife in his hand was swept out. Swoosh! The knife light tore the sky, bringing with it an icy cold energy, slashing toward Bufang's head. It seemed that he wanted to kill Bufang with one slash. The Blackwind Continent expert also moved. His black robe fluttered as if he had turned into a gust of black wind. Everyone present screamed and screamed. They stared at the arena excitedly. Zhu Yin and the others turned pale, and Mo Yin closed her eyes, not daring to look straight at it. She was afraid to see the tragic scene of the great demon being cut in half. All of a sudden, the clamor came to an abrupt stop. The engulfing black wind seemed to have been struck by an unparalleled force and was sent flying back. The ice-field kitchen knife, which looked like an ice crystal, was caught by Bufang as if he was picking a flower. Everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. Chapter 1241. Where's this? What happened? What am I doing? At that moment, the Blackwind Continent expert was a little confused. He felt as if his body didn't belong to him anymore. He was sent flying by a powerful force, causing the blood and chi in his body to churn. That force was unparalleled. He wanted to block it, but he was unable to do so. Outside the arena, everyone was stunned. They thought that the Blackwind Continent expert would still sweep the Heaven Chief realm. But the result seemed a little different from what they had imagined. The Heaven Chief realm expert didn't seem to be beaten at all. Boom! Bufang lifted the foot that had kicked the Blackwind Continent expert, his vermilion robe fluttering in the wind. His face was expressionless and indifferent. He raised his hand and grasped the icy plain kitchen knife as if he were picking a flower. Buzz, the icy plain kitchen knife shone brilliantly, as if there was a stream of light escaping from it. Holding it in Bufang's hand, he gently shook it. The artifact's spirits throbbing soon calmed down. With a flick of his finger, he gently touched the kitchen knife. The kitchen knife suddenly shook. A supreme-grade immortal tool is not meant to be used like that. Bufang glanced at the Blackwind Continent expert, who had fallen to the ground. The black wind had dispersed, revealing his true appearance. His voice wasn't loud, but it resounded through the arena. "You're courting death," the Blackwind Continent expert roared. His body flipped over, and he glared at Bufang. This was the kind of humiliation that came from being tricked. Trash from the Heaven Chief realm. You still have the ability to fight back. Don't think that only chefs like you know how to use kitchen knives. Show me what you can do. The Blackwind Continent expert's aura spread out, and energy constantly floated on the surface of his body. In the next moment, his eyes suddenly turned crimson. It was as if a beast was roaring. Strong winds swept up again. The wind surged like sharp steel knives. The twisting tornadoes were about to tear everything apart. The people watching below breathed a sigh of relief. They thought that the expert from the Blackwind Continent had been killed just like that. That would be too much of a slap in the face. After all, the expert from the Blackwind Continent that they had just supported was killed in the next second. The slap in the face came too quickly, like a tornado. Damn it, you scared me. Kill this Xiao Bai's face. If you can't even deal with the face of Xiao Bai who lives off a woman, what's the use of you? The burly man from the Vajra realm spat and stamped his foot on the ground. The whole ground shook violently, and then he let out a roar. The onlookers were in an uproar again. The commotion started again. Mo Yin gritted her teeth. When she saw that the great demon hadn't fallen, a look of surprise appeared on her face. as expected of the great demon, to be able to last so long. Of course, Zhu Yin and Fang Yu clenched their fists. They desperately hoped that the great demon could kill the expert from the Black Wind continent. The people of the Heaven Chief realm cheered. As soon as the great demon made his move, he gained the upper hand, which made many nervous people smile. He truly deserved to be the miracle of the Heaven Chief realm. The strength he had shown was really extraordinary. Of course, more people were still cursing. The roar of the expert from the Vajra realm had enraged them. The projection array did not only transform the scene, but it also recorded the sound from the surroundings. It restored the scene 100% as it was. The great demon. Kill him. How dare he look down on our Heaven Chief realm? Let him know how to use a kitchen knife. Owner Bu is mighty. The roar of the Heaven Chief realm, of course, could not reach Bu Fang's ears. However, Bu Fang could clearly hear the mocking voices around him. With his hands clasped behind his back and a kitchen knife in one hand, Bu Fang looked around and twitched the corner of his mouth. You want to know how to use a kitchen knife? Bu Fang glanced at the black wind sweeping in front of him. He said lightly. His voice rang out. The next moment, Bu Fang's foot stomped down. He walked unhurriedly towards the black wind that was sweeping towards him. Rumble. In the arena, the black wind grew stronger and stronger, as if it had turned into a tornado, sweeping heaven and earth. It wanted to crush Bu Fang completely. The blade-like wind seemed to want to cut off Bu Fang's flesh. It carried murderous intent. Commander Mo Yuan took a step back in the arena, narrowed his eyes, and watched coldly. They were in charge of the order in the arena. Death and killing were all allowed in the arena. The Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path was never a gentle competition. In Commander Mo Yuan's view, the current competition was too boring, and they needed some blood to stimulate it. Facing the gale, Bu Fang's expression did not change. The velvet rope that tied his hair was broken, and his hair flew everywhere. His vermilion robe flapped noisily. Facing the gale, Bu Fang raised his kitchen knife. It was the ice-field kitchen knife. Watch carefully. This is how you use a kitchen knife, Bu Fang said with a straight face. Outside the arena, Mo Yin closed her eyes. The great demon was foolishly waving his kitchen knife and colliding with the gale. He was courting death. Zhu Yin and the others also widened their eyes. The hustle and bustle around them also quietened down. Everyone seemed curious. How did he use a kitchen knife? Was one knife light? Two knives light? Three knives light? Behind Bu Fang, a huge shadow suddenly emerged. As soon as the shadow appeared, holding a long knife, it seemed to roar at the sky. When it slashed out, all the knife light gathered at the same time, turned into a knife, and cut through the sky. A domineering aura swept out from Bu Fang. Overlord. 13 blades. Puff. The sky was full of knife light, accompanied by the black tornado, roaring and sweeping. Clanging sounds rang out incessantly. The next moment, blood burst out and filled the sky. Suddenly, a miserable howl rang out in the black wind. The black wind turned into a blood-red wind. Bu Fang clasped his hands behind his back, playing with the knife with one hand. After holding the kitchen knife, the wind came to an abrupt stop. Bang! The Black Wind Continent expert fell to the ground, covered in blood. His clothes were ragged, and his aura was weak. He was almost dead. The other Black Wind Continent experts were stunned. That was a 9-star, true, immortal realm expert. How could he be killed just like that? How pitiful was his appearance? And they didn't even see how he used the kitchen knife. What happened? Commander Mo Yuan's eyes lit up as he looked at Bu Fang in surprise. In the distance, Yu Ji, who was carrying a heavy sword on her back, also felt a little incredulous. This boy Boom, a half-step saint from the Black Wind Continent, stepped up into the air and landed in the arena. After sending the seriously injured expert back to the arena, he stared at Bu Fang. Good, very good. How dare a mere Heaven Chief realm expert hurt someone from the Black Wind Continent? The half-step saint said coldly. Then his eyes suddenly became ice cold. Around them, the Vajra realm expert, who had shouted the loudest, almost choked. His eyes widened in disbelief. That Xiao Bai actually has such strength. The short-lived technique just now was very amazing. Damn it. No wonder he can live off the Earth Prison Overlord. He does have some strength, but if I meet him in the arena, I'll definitely crush his bones one by one. The Vajra Realm expert grinned, still full of ridicule. The Heaven Chief realm was a weak realm. The noise around them came to an abrupt stop. The result was beyond everyone's expectations. No one had expected the battle to end so unexpectedly. Mo Yan's eyes widened in disbelief. Her little mouth opened so wide that an egg could be stuffed in it. The great demon actually won. Zhu Yan's body began to tremble. Fan Yu coughed up blood and wanted to laugh. They were delighted to see the miserable state of their enemies who had tortured them. Zhu Yan even wept with joy. Damn it! The great demon! Beat them all! I'll be your fan from now on! Zhu Yan roared in his heart. Suddenly, swoosh! A clanging sound rang out. The icy plain kitchen knife suddenly fell in front of Zhu Yan, scaring him so much that he broke out in a cold sweat. Keep an eye on a kitchen knife. As a chef, you can't let your knife be taken away by brute force. As long as the knife is there, the chef is there, understand? Bu Fong looked at Zhu Yan and said lightly. Zhu Yan picked up the kitchen knife with trembling hands, his blood surging. You're the boss now, and whatever you say goes. Then, Bu Fong turned to the half-step saint from the Black Wind continent. Come on, I'm in a hurry. Bu Fong said seriously. Arrogant. How dare you humiliate me like this? You really don't know how to spell the word death. Do you think you're invincible just because you've defeated the Black Wind continent? The Black Wind continent half-step saint narrowed his eyes. The next moment, a spear appeared in his hand. A ripping sound rang out. As soon as he stomped his foot, the half-step saint charged over like a dragon. Buzz! The spear disappeared in an instant like a gust of wind. A gust of wind blew past. The spear fell from the sky. With a clanging sound, it stabbed the spot where Bu Fong had been standing. The ground suddenly exploded. Rubble kept falling. The Black Wind continent half-step saint roared. Holding the spear in one hand, he kept swinging it. One spear after another flew toward Bu Fong, trying to turn Bu Fong into a hornet's nest. The pressure of a half-step saint was shocking. The whole arena seemed to have become his stage. It was shrouded in his killing intent. Die! The pitch-black spear light suddenly shot out. The next moment, it charged toward Bu Fong. Bu Fong clasped his hands behind his back, his face still indifferent. His body kept moving sideways, dodging the spear light by a hair's breadth. It looked so difficult. This caused many people below the arena to exclaim in surprise. Heaven Chief Realm. Everyone was watching with rapt attention, holding their breaths as they stared at the light screen. On the screen, the battle was in full swing. It affected the hearts of every Heaven Chief Realm expert. This battle was very important. They could only win and not lose. Once they lost, the Heaven Chief Realm's journey in the team competition would come to an end. However, many of them understood that this battle was really difficult, because the great demon's opponent was a half-step saint. A half-step saint. Some of the city lords weren't even half-step saints. How could the great demon resist an existence at this level? Of course, people who knew Bu Fong didn't think so. Mengqi's eyes were dazzling as she stared at the light screen. She was just curious about what means Bu Fong would use to teach the Black Wind continent expert a lesson. Boom! Boom! The ground kept exploding. The spear light burst out. The sharp energy kept attacking. The long spear bent into a huge arc and suddenly shot out. It seemed to hit Bu Fong's chest. Suddenly, Bu Fong stopped dodging. He raised his hand and grabbed the long spear. Boom! Everyone widened their eyes in shock. It was unbelievable. Huh? The eyes of the Black Wind continent half-step saint shrank. How dare you? I'm really in a hurry, Bu Fong said, frowning. A moment later, his mind flickered. The belt on his waist suddenly turned into a baiguan. With a snap, it slapped the Black Wind continent half-step saint. It sent him flying backward, and he sucked in a cold breath. Belt! This guy dared to slap him with his belt. Do you know the consequences of angering a half-step saint? He raised his hand. The long spear pierced through the air and was caught by the black-winged continent half-step saint. Boom! Behind the half-step saint, a sharp black wind gathered. That black wind seemed to have been blown out from time immemorial. This is the top strange wind of the black wind continent. It could destroy everything, including souls. You have no idea the terror of a half-step saint. The long spear swung, and the pitch-black wind immediately coiled around it. With a tearing sound, the void seemed to be collapsing. The wind was similar to the immortal fire. It was also a natural phenomenon, and it possessed great power. The clamor in the surroundings resounded once again. He deserved to be a half-step saint. As soon as he made a move, it was obvious whether he had one or not. The Blackwind Continent half-step saint grinned and smiled proudly. Boy, if there's a next life, remember not to anger a half-step saint, especially a half-step saint with a natural wonder. Swish! As soon as he finished speaking, the long spear suddenly bent like a crescent moon, and the spear light burst out. Strange wind, soul-destroying spear. Go to hell. Boom! Boom! Bufong stood where he was, expressionless with his hands clasped behind his back. His vermilion robe flapped noisily. The ground around him kept exploding. A pitch-black crescent black wind slashed towards him. Bufong looked at the half-step saint of the Blackwind Continent with a fake smile and pursed his lips. Sorry, half-step saint. Me too. As soon as he finished speaking, Bufong's aura suddenly changed. He released his divine will without reservation, and his cultivation base, which had been obscured by his divine will, was also revealed to the public at this moment. The striped red and white vermilion robe suddenly turned crimson. The sound of the vermilion robe was deafening. Bufong's words dumbfounded everyone around him again. They were dumbfounded again. The Blackwind Continent half-step saint's heart trembled, and he almost dropped his spear. Chapter 1242. The bird's cry was loud and clear, as if it came from the nine heavens. It was as clear as a pearl falling on a plate, making everyone's mind tremble. Many people looked over and saw Bufong, who was standing on the arena with his scarlet vermilion robe fluttering in the wind. His whole body seemed to have turned into a burning flame, and his aura began to rise. In everyone's perception, Bufong's cultivation base, which was originally very hazy, suddenly became clear. At this moment, it completely erupted and kept rising, as if he was climbing up a flight of stairs. Boom! It was as if shackles had been broken, and the restraints had disappeared. At this moment, Bufong's cultivation base was completely revealed. Half-step Saint Realm, his aura soaring. The flaming wings on his back unfolded, and the bird's cry was loud and clear. Flaming feathers fluttered down. It was extremely dazzling. Everyone was dazzled by Bufong's sudden eruption. His divine will spread out like the sea, suppressing everyone's mind. Almost everyone's breathing became rapid, and their eyes shrank. Bufong's mental force was unexpectedly strong. It was as if a layer of hazy golden light had shrouded his body. The unusual wind soul extinguishing spear was a half-moon-shaped spear light that seemed to carry a black wind, bursting with an incomparable chill. In the Blackwind Continent, the supreme experts could merge with the unusual wind. This so-called unusual wind was like the immortal flame in the Heaven Chief realm. It was a natural oddity with terrifying power. Bufong clasped his hands behind his back, standing where he was. His faint voice made everyone's mind tremble. The Blackwind Continent's half-step saint was the most shocked. This was because he was facing the pressure bursting out of Bufong's body. That pressure made him incomparably shocked. It was as if an ant had suddenly transformed into an existence that wasn't any weaker than itself. This kind of existence was truly indescribable. To a person's mind, it was a huge blow. After the shock, the Blackwind Continent's half-step saint recovered his wits. So what if you're a half-step saint? I have the unusual wind to extinguish your soul. Scatter your flesh. The Blackwind Continent's half-step saint roared as he tightened his grip on his spear. He glared at Bufong, his eyes bulging. He took a step forward. His figure shot out. It rushed toward Bufong, following the black crescent slash shot out by the strange wind, soul-destroying spear. Rumble. The might of the battle was extremely terrifying. Everyone held their breaths, completely attracted by the intense battle. In the arena, the vermilion robe on Bufong's body flapped noisily, facing the mutated wind soul extinguishing spear, which was an incomparably terrifying killer move. Feng Lin's eyes widened. Bufong's face gradually turned solemn. The next moment, his hand trembled. The golden dragon bone kitchen knife fell into his hand. As soon as the kitchen knife appeared, a dragon roar resounded. The golden brilliance was dazzling and eye-catching, attracting everyone's attention. Die! The half-step saint from the Blackwind Continent roared. The ground kept shattering, as though a layer of dust had been lifted. Oppressive air waves kept flying over. Bufong held the kitchen knife and gently swung it at the black crescent spear. This slash was pure and unpretentious. This slash was simple and direct. Boom! As soon as the knife was swung, the aura in the arena changed dramatically. The next moment, a vague shadow emerged behind him. The phantom seemed to be torn from the sky, and its aura was extremely terrifying. It stood in the sky, overlooking the vast earth. The phantom held a knife in its hand, which seemed to be able to cut the sky into pieces. The knife slashed down. Heaven and earth were silent. It seemed that even if an immortal came to this world, he would be beheaded. One slash, cutting a mortal. Bufong's face was expressionless as he indifferently spat out those words. A moment later, a golden knife light shot out from the dragon bone kitchen knife. There was a loud bang. It collided with the black spear light. An explosion rang out, and air waves flew everywhere. The half-step saint from the Blackwind Continent was so angry that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He followed the spear light, wanting to give Bufong a fatal blow. However, he never expected Bufong's one slash cutting immortal. Its power was so extraordinary. The silent death black wind suddenly collapsed, as if it had been cut in half by a saber. The spear light disappeared, but the knife light was still coming. The half-step saint had no time to dodge, so he could only take it with his body. The long spear swept out and collided with the knife light. Puff! His chest suddenly exploded. The half-step saint from the Blackwind Continent vomited blood. His whole body flew backward like a cannonball, smashed to the ground, and was pushed far away by the great force. He flew out of the arena with a boom. Silence. The whole arena was unprecedentedly silent. Since Bufong revealed his half-step saint cultivation base, he had been crushing all the way. Suppression in terms of momentum, suppression in terms of mental power, and even suppression in terms of technique. The final result of the crushing was that the half-step saint from the Blackwind Continent, who thought he had won, was defeated. He defeated the enemy with one slash. The air was filled with the smell of blood of the half-step saint. Everyone was stunned. The audience, which had been clamoring with excitement, fell silent. No one had expected that the weak immortal cooking realm would produce a half-step saint, who pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger and turn the tide at the last moment. He defeated 2 contestants from the Blackwind Continent in a row. This was almost a slap in everyone's face. They had basically been supporting the Blackwind Continent before. The expert from a Vajra realm looked constipated. His eyes widened like a commander, and he punched the ground. Damn it, trash. The Blackwind Continent is trash. Even a little reptile from the Heaven Chief realm can't kill you. Trash. The big man from the Vajra realm had blue veins on his forehead, and he was furious. Many people around were also silent. Bufong's strength was beyond their expectations. Although, in their view, a half-step saint was nothing at all. But this kind of abnormal contrast still made them quite shocked. Perhaps this Heaven Chief realm could go a little further. Amitba, this poor monk knows the owner is not an ordinary person at first glance. Of course, he's not an ordinary person to be able to cook such delicious dishes. Boss, it's boring to fight and kill. Finish it quickly and go back to the teppanyaki. After a moment of silence, an expert opened his mouth. Although Bu Fong's strength shocked everyone, those who had tasted the teppanyaki octopus tentacles cooked by Bu Fong still preferred it. The corner of Bu Fong's mouth couldn't help but twitch. The golden light dissipated. Then, he put away the dragon bone kitchen knife. Bu Fong stood in the middle of the arena with his hands clasped behind his back, his face expressionless. His figure was transmitted to the surrounding realms through the projection formation. The first team match had attracted many people's attention. In the Heaven Chief realm, the entire square was silent. Everyone stared blankly at the light screen. Some people reached out to rub their eyes, thinking that they were seeing things. However, when they saw the figure projected on the light screen, the figure stood in the middle of the arena with his hands clasped behind his back, his clothes fluttering in the wind. Their moods were all stirred up. He won. The great demon won. Invincible. The great demon didn't let us down. He's worthy of being the great demon, who always walks in the forefront of creating miracles. Once again, he shocked us. The experts of the immortal cooking realm were in an uproar. Everyone was talking and whispering to each other. They were so excited that they couldn't suppress the excitement in their hearts. Many vendors were so excited that they promised a 50% discount on their dishes. The fragrance, steam, and excitement intertwined, making the entire square extremely lively. Mengqi's mouth twitched. Sure enough, no one could see through Bu Fong's strength. He had never disappointed anyone. He won. Mo Yin stared blankly at the arena. Looking at the peerless figure, she couldn't help but feel happy. Living off a woman? Xiao Bai's face? A greedy peddler? No, this was all a mistake. It turned out that their arrogance was so ridiculous in the eyes of the great demon. The great demon was really strong. Zhu Yan's swollen face was full of excitement. Bu Fong won 2 games in a row. As long as he won the next game, he could lead the Heaven Chief Realm team to the next round. How could he not be excited? Of course, he was more agitated and shocked. He was a little embarrassed and ashamed to face Bu Fong. After all, along the way, he had always disliked Bu Fong and thought that the great demon was just SOSO. He had always thought that the great demon was old. Now, it seemed, it was all his own fault. The great demon didn't take him seriously at all. No wonder the realm lord Dit asked the great demon to take care of them before he left. It turned out that the great demon really had the strength to do so. Damn it, from now on, I'm a diehard fan of the great demon. Bah, didn't you just beat a half-step saint? A half-step saint from a backward world? You make it sound like you've won the championship. What a bunch of idiots. The big man from the Vajrar region sneered. His explosive muscles seemed to be constantly bulging. He glanced at Zhu Yan, who was laughing excitedly, and sneered with dissatisfaction. He just couldn't stand the sight of Zhu Yan's swollen face and excited look. Why are you so excited? The words of the big man from the Vajrar region reached the ears of Zhu Yan and the others without reservation, making Zhu Yan's eyes spit fire. In the arena, Bu Fong glanced indifferently at Commander Mo Yuan, who announced Bu Fong's victory. After that, he asked Bu Fong if he needed to rest. I'm in a hurry. Let's finish this quickly. Otherwise, the meat will burn, Bu Fong said, twitching the corner of his mouth. Although Xianyuan Xiaohui was also the Heaven Chief, Xianyuan Xiaohui might not be able to support the demon frog meat. The main reason was that the dish contained Bu Fong's spiritual pressure, and it was cooked based on Bu Fong's spiritual pressure. If Xianyuan Xiaohui couldn't support it, then the demon frog meat would really burn. Bu Fong's words rang out. Everyone present couldn't help but gasp. How arrogant! How could a person from the Heaven Chief region be so arrogant? Do they really think they have won the whole world by defeating a half-step saint? The Blackwind continent is just a small world, and the strongest expert is only a half-step saint. What is he so proud of? In the Blackwind continent, an expert stepped into the arena. He was the other of the 2 half-step saints from the Blackwind continent. His eyes were full of fierceness. Swoosh! As soon as the half-step saint entered the arena, A terrible aura swept across the arena, and the Black Wind Continent's will of the great path rolled over his head. This half-step saint is half a step into the realm of the little saint. His aura is not much weaker than the little saint's. The chef from the Heaven Chief region is going to be out of luck. He has begun to fuse with the will of the great path. This kind of strength is not something that the mentally retarded half-step saint can compare with. This chef is going to be taught a lesson. Looking at the towering half-step saint of the Black Wind Continent, everyone murmured excitedly. Everyone's eyes were filled with excitement. They didn't like Bufong. Yes, they didn't like him. It was boring for the weak to turn the tables and beat the strong. What they wanted was blood, and what they wanted was for the strong to beat the weak. That was the only way to excite them. They didn't want to be shocked, but excited. Kill him. Below the arena, an uproar broke out, and roars filled the air. Bufong raised his brows and looked at the half-step saint opposite him. I didn't think I would have to fight. I didn't expect that the Heaven Chief region would hide so well. They let a 6-star true immortal be their leader, and a real expert will catch us by surprise. Despicable reptile. The half-step saint's eyes turned red as he growled. Rumble. A black wind blew across the arena. Compared with the previous half-step saint, this one was indeed much stronger. The scene made many people's hearts clench. Through the light screen, the experts from the Heaven Chief region fell silent again. They stared at the screen and prayed in their hearts. After one difficulty, there was still another one. How far could the Heaven Chief region go? Zhu Yin and the others clenched their fists, feeling extremely conflicted. Could the great demon still create miracles? Rumble. The black wind blew, and thousands of swirls of sand rose into the sky. The Black Wind Continent's will of the great path descended and turned into a huge hand. The giant hand, which was filled with majestic pressure, slapped down toward Bufong. I'll smash you into meat paste. A roar rang out. The last half-step saint of the Black Wind Continent gathered all the power in his body and threw out a palm. This palm, it made many people's expressions change. The power of this palm was comparable to that of the little saint. Many experts from small worlds who were similar to the Black Wind Continent felt their hearts skip a beat. It seemed that they had to be careful of this half-step saint's move in the following matches. But before that, they were excited to see the little reptile from the Heaven Chief region being slapped to death. A palm that had fused with the will of the great path. What could the chef use to block it? A kitchen knife? However, they didn't expect, in the face of this palm, Bufong's heart skipped a beat. Suddenly, a golden light flashed. A beef meatball appeared in his hand, blooming with a bright golden light. Expressionless, he grabbed the meatball and put it in his mouth. Then he bit down. The meatball cracked, and a rich aroma flowed out of it. Everyone was once again dumbfounded at the sight of this. They were dumbfounded. A meatball? He took out a meatball in the middle of the match. Did this little chef know that he was going to lose? So he wanted to eat a meatball to calm himself down before he died? He must be a F** king comedian. Chapter 1243. Beef meatballs? The audience was speechless. Everyone knew that Bufong was the chef of the Heaven Chief realm. He didn't need to prove himself with a beef meatball in the arena. However, unexpectedly, the beef meatball smelled a little fragrant. It was a very fragrant kind. Many people stared at Bufong. They saw Bufong put the beef meatball in his mouth and slowly bite off half of it. A strong aroma slowly flowed out of it. The texture was delicate and silky, and it was particularly intoxicating. It seemed to be really delicious. Some people were so surprised that they couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Who knew how a single beef meatball could attract their attention? Soon, however, everyone came to their senses and stared at Bufong in surprise. It was fragrant and delicious, but could a beef meatball help him win the competition? As for Bufong's opponent, the top half-step saint from the Black Wind Continent sneered mercilessly at this moment. A cold sneer spread from the sweeping black wind. The will of the great path swept out, turned into an invisible hand and slapped mercilessly toward Buffon. The entire arena seemed to be unable to bear the heavy burden at this moment. Commander Mo Yuan watched coldly and didn't make a move. His eyes even flashed, and he was a little curious about how the boy from the Heaven Chief realm would deal with him. After all, this competition had involved the will of the Great Path. Once the will of the Great Path was involved, it meant the battle had escalated to another level. The level of the Little Saint, which would also be the main level of the competition in the future. After all, a half-step saint could not reach the end. Beef meatball? Commander Mo Yuan stared at Buffon and narrowed his eyes. He wasn't the only one. Many people exclaimed in surprise. I'm afraid this boy has lost all hope. He wants to be a full ghost before he dies. Below the arena, the Vajra realm expert grinned and mocked without hesitation. His face was full of disdain. Many people around him also echoed his words. However, in the crowd, many people's gazes turned grave. They were really solemn. For example, the monks of the West Little Buddhism realm, the golden-haired masked experts of the Wingman Valley with pure white wings on their backs, and the pale-faced experts of the Wandering Soul realm. Their perception was very strong, so they did not underestimate the beef meatball in Buffon's hand. The apex experts among them had condensed divine perception. His senses were extraordinary, and he could sense the terrifying power contained in the golden beef meatball in Buffon's hand. There was also the will of the Heaven Tao within it. It was hard to say who would win and who would lose. However, they were also very puzzled. They did not understand why the will of the heavenly path was contained in the meatball. Furthermore, what could a meatball do? The people of the Heaven Chief realm were very excited. That's right, he was excited. Seeing Buffon take out the beef meatball, not only was he not worried, but he was also extremely excited. Of course, some people were confused. At this time, the Heaven Chief beside them would excitedly explain to them. Meatballs, that was the terrifying method that the Great Demon had used to dominate the world. The Great Demon's gourmet bomb. Invincible. Do you know how the Great Demon could block an army of 10,000 by himself? That's right. It's the beef meatball. It's a magical beef meatball. The Heaven Chief chattered excitedly as they stared at the light screen. Some of them could not wait to see the collision on the light screen. This time, they believed in the Great Demon without reservation. After all, the Great Demon's beef meatball was unique in this world. Buzz, the sky-covering palm, slapped down. The entire arena seemed to collapse under the heavy pressure. Rubble rolled down, breaking into powder under the pressure. Since this was the first match, and also the preliminary round, the Earth Prison had not prepared a stronger arena. Thus, when the will of the heavenly path appeared, the arena could not bear it. Boom! Buffon stood where he was. He had bitten half of the beef meatball. Sizzle. Steam kept spurting out from the beef meatball. It wiggled restlessly in Buffon's hand, as if it wanted to jump out and destroy everything in an instant. Buffon held the beef meatball with 2 fingers, his face indifferent. The pressure fell. The vermilion robe on his body flapped noisily. It seemed to be sticking to his body. All of a sudden, Buffon narrowed his eyes. Then, he flicked his finger. The beef meatball shot out. It drew an elegant arc and fell towards the palm that was descending from the sky. A mere beef meatball wants to resist the destruction of the will of the heavenly path? Go to hell. Little reptile from the Heaven Chief realm. The Blackwind Continent's half-step saint stepped in the void, his body looming in the black wind. His palm slapped down. The golden beef meatball shot up into the sky. Instantly, it collided with the palm. Boom! A loud explosion rang out. The entire palm was torn apart. Huh! The eyes of the Blackwind Continent's great sage shrank. A moment later, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. How is that possible? How could his palm, which contained the will of the Great Path, be torn apart? It was torn apart by King beef meatball. Were all beef meatballs so awesome nowadays? Buzzed, the beef meatball shrieked. Steam kept rising from it as it sped up. Eventually, it turned into a golden shooting star, drilling out of the invisible palm condensed by the will of the great path. Then, it shot toward the Black Wind Continent's expert. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion broke out in the sky. Rolling flames swept across the sky like a curtain, covering everyone's eyes and making their hearts tremble. Hiss! Hiss! Everyone sucked in a cold breath, feeling incredulous. The beef meatball exploded. How strange. Did the Heaven Chief realm have this kind of trick now? Could the beef meatball explode? A blood-curdling scream suddenly exploded in the void. The Black Wind Continent's half-step saint was shrouded in flames. He struggled incessantly, and he roared furiously. But he couldn't avoid it. The fire became stronger and stronger when it met the wind. The Black Wind Continent's half-step saint was completely devoured by the flames. Down below, not a sound could be heard. Not a single sound could be heard. Everyone who saw the scene didn't know what to say. They thought it would be another crushing match by the Black Wind Continent, but they didn't expect it to be so easy. The chef from the Heaven Chief realm didn't even make a move. He just threw out a beef meatball and knocked out his opponent. His methods were far from ordinary. The Vajra realm expert didn't know what to say anymore. He stared at the void, his mouth twitching. Among the spectators, some looked surprised, some were shocked, and some were bursting with cold, killing intent. The Abyss's team was all clad in blood-colored robes. Wrapped in blood-colored robes, each of them exuded a very strong aura. These contestants were carefully selected elites of the law enforcers, and they were all very strong. Staring at the exploding beef meatball in the sky, everyone's eyes flashed with killing intent. The familiar beef meatball, the familiar explosion, and the familiar flame. Countless brothers had fallen in the explosion of this beef meatball. The guy from the Heaven Chief realm who destroyed the array had appeared. Captain, an abyss expert clad in a blood-colored robe, said to the leading expert, "Now is not the time to make a move. If you meet anyone from the Heaven Chief realm in the arena, kill without mercy." A cold voice filled the air. The experts of the Abyss team nodded coldly. If he ran into the Heaven Chief realm, no matter who it was, he would kill without mercy. The battle was over. It ended beyond everyone's expectations. The contestants from the Black Wind Continent turned pale. It wasn't just them. Everyone watching the match through the light screen in the Black Wind Continent turned pale. A top-notch half-saint of their continent had actually been killed by a meatball. He lost in such a sullen manner. This should be the most miserable way to fail in history. He was killed by a beef meatball. There was a loud bang. The half-step saint fell miserably on the arena. Although he didn't die, he was seriously injured. Now that Bufang's cultivation had increased a lot, it was not a problem for him to heavily injure a half-step saint with an explosive meatball. With his hands clasped behind his back, Bufang glanced indifferently at the miserable half-step saint of the Black Wind Continent. Then, he glanced at Commander Mo Yuan. He gave Bufang a deep look, then opened his mouth and announced, "The winner is the team from the Heaven Chief realm." As soon as his voice rang out, Zhu Yin wept with joy. Mo Yin covered her mouth with her hand, and Fang Yu waved his fist excitedly. They had advanced to the next round. The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched slightly. Very good. It was time to go back and cook. Otherwise, the demon frog meat would really burn. After Commander Mo Yuan finished his announcement, Bufang clasped his hands behind his back, and his vermilion robe returned to its striped red and white appearance. He took out a velvet rope from the system's storage space and tied up his hair. Bufang slowly walked down the arena. His calm demeanor made everyone scream. The Heaven Chief Realm girls, who were watching the match through the light screen, screamed. The handsome, cool, and indifferent the great demon exuded a different kind of temptation. Tap, tap, tap. With his hands clasped behind his back, Bufang calmly walked past. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks. That was because a huge palm had suddenly appeared in front of him. With a swoosh, the palm slapped toward Bufang's head. Bufang narrowed his eyes. The people who had been watching all this while also cried out in surprise. Bufang raised his hand, and his bandaged arm collided with the palm. It was a loud bang. A huge force burst forth from the palm that was coming at him. Oh! Bufong felt his body tremble slightly, and he raised his eyes in surprise. The one who had stopped him was none other than the burly Vajra realm man. The latter's face was also full of surprise. It seemed he didn't expect that Bufong could resist his slap with pure physical strength. What's the matter? Bufong looked at the burly Vajra realm man, his face expressionless. When he heard Bufong's question, the burly man suddenly opened his mouth and was about to speak. Don't talk. I don't want to listen to you now. If you stop me, the meat will burn. Can you bear the responsibility if the meat burns? Bufong said. The burly man's face suddenly froze, and he stared at Bufong. Damn it, I don't like the look of you. If I want to say something harsh, why are you talking to me about burning the meat? Everyone, this big brother with big breasts and no brains, is blocking my way of cooking. What do you think I should do? Bufong sighed and withdrew his hand that was blocking the palm of the burly Vajra realm cultivator. As soon as he finished speaking, the burly Vajra realm man suddenly looked dumbfounded. Big breasts and no brains? Who the hell are you calling big breasts and no brains? Are these my pectoral muscles? Do you know what pectoral muscles are? Pectoral muscles that can shake. Damn it, you're courting death. The Vajra realm expert was furious. However, he soon felt a chill. Behind him, there seemed to be a pair of murderous eyes falling on him. The Vajra realm expert froze. Ba, benefactor with big breasts and no brains. This is not right. At some point, Wu appeared in front of the Vajra realm expert. The Vajra realm expert widened his eyes and said, An eminent monk from the West Little Buddhism realm? Bam! The next moment, the Vajra realm expert saw a fist growing bigger and bigger in front of his eyes. The next moment, the fist smashed into his eye socket. Unexpectedly, Wu lifted his kasaya and struck first. Damn it! Damn your eminent monk! How dare you hit me, old bald donkey! The Vajra realm expert flew into a rage. He flipped over and roared. But soon his eyes widened, and his voice came to an abrupt stop, because in front of him, except for Wu, who had lifted his kasaya and rolled up his sleeves, the countless figures around him made him shudder. There were even many experts from small worlds stronger than the Vajra realm experts. The Vajra realm expert wanted to say something. However, as soon as his voice faded, he was drowned. All that was left was a miserable whimper. Bufong shook his head. The anger of a foodie was not that easy to stop. He was really young. Damn it, you little lizard from the Heaven Chief realm. Just you wait. Once you're in the arena, I'll definitely break your bones one by one. Who is it? Don't touch my chest. The angry voice of the Vajra realm expert came from the crowd. The audience was in a mess, and the onlookers were speechless. Bufong didn't stay. As Zhu Yin and the others watched in shock, he left the arena. In front of Fong Fong's little stall, Xin Yuan Xiaohui's eyes were wide, and sweat rolled down his body like a waterfall, splashing all over the ground. His eyes were bloodshot, and his mental force was on the verge of collapse. The pressure emanating from the demon frog meat on the black tortoise iron plate almost crushed him. Owner Boo, why isn't he back yet? I can't hold on any longer. Suddenly, just when he was so tense that he felt like he was about to snap, a powerful mental energy suddenly fused with him and wrapped around his mental energy, relieving the pressure on his entire body. Xin Yuan Xiaohui jerked his head up. There, Bufong walked leisurely toward him with his hands clasped behind his back. Around the arena, under Commander Mo Yuan's shout, the ganging up on them stopped, the group of people dispersed, and swaggered toward Fong Fong's little stall. This aroused the curiosity of many people. Commander Mo Yuan glanced at the miserable Vajra realm expert, and the corner of his mouth twitched. This should be the so-called, you won't die if you don't court death. He cleared his throat. He glanced at the jade talisman in his hand. Then, he announced in a cold voice, the next match is between the North Cloud Sea team and the Abyss team. Chapter 1244. The Vajra realm expert was surrounded and beaten. He was surrounded and beaten around the arena. Not only was he surrounded and beaten, but he was also attacked on the chest. Not only that, but the projection array also transmitted the scene to various small worlds. The scene immediately became the laughingstock of countless surrounding small worlds. How dare you stand in the way of the great demon? You're courting death. Don't underestimate a chef. Behind a chef are thousands of foodies, especially great chefs. You want to mess with the great demon just because you have big breasts? Beat that guy's breasts. The people of the Heaven Chief realm were all cheering. Everyone was eating delicious food and enjoying the miserable howls of the Vajra realm expert. Meanwhile, in the Vajra realm, countless experts stared speechlessly at the light screen. That guy had disgraced the Vajra realm by being beaten up by so many people at the same time. The scene was even transmitted to the surrounding worlds. Now, the phrase big breasts and no brains would probably become a popular phrase. Of course, that was except for the Vajra realm incident. More people were curious about the chef from the Heaven Chief realm. Why are there so many people helping that chef? Moreover, even the eminent monk of the West Little Buddhism realm had rolled up his sleeves and joined the fight. Why? They were puzzled. Many people followed the teams that had finished beating up the Vajra realm expert. Before they got close, they smelled the rich aroma of meat that filled the air. The aroma was extraordinary, and it seemed to carry a unique meaning. It was as if someone was playing a song. The plucking of the zither made people's hearts race. It smells so good. It's intoxicating. Why does it smell so good? Barbecue? No, it's an indescribable taste. I've never tasted it before. A group of people chattered away as their gazes locked onto a small stall not far away. The stall was closed. The chef from the Heaven Chief realm, who had shown his might in the arena, was now standing in front of the stall with his sleeves rolled up. He was holding a skewer of fragrant meat in his hand. The meat was not ordinary, and it kept sizzling as it was pressed against the iron plate. The aroma was mellow and full of unique meaning. Honorbu, give me a skewer of demon frog meat. 1 skewer isn't enough. 10. Bring as many as you can. The customers in the long line around them all stared at the dish on Bu Fong's iron plate as if they were going to spit fire. All of them felt an itch in their hearts, and they couldn't wait any longer. The people who followed him were shocked. Was there such a thing? They actually set up stalls around the arena, and their business seemed to be booming. Some people sniffed the fragrance in the air, and their expressions changed slightly. The fragrance stimulated their taste buds, causing their saliva to fill their mouths. Rumbling sounds came from his abdomen. I can't hold it in anymore. Let's go and have a skewer. In an instant, a group of people joined the army. The booming business had already stunned Zhu Yin and the others. They only had admiration for Bu Fong now. Whether it was the battle or the stall business, both were completely out of their expectations. Moreover, they could not help but be tempted by the smell of meat in the air. They really wanted to eat it, because there are too many people. Each person is limited to 1 skewer at a time. After eating one, you have to line up again. Bu Fong looked at the dense crowd and felt a headache coming on. However, he was delighted in his heart. In a short time, his turnover had reached a very terrifying figure. The demon frog meat didn't seem to be popular, and the octopus tentacles were more popular. The diners couldn't wait to taste it. The demon frog meat was more fragrant and chewier, so it was especially popular. Before, Bu Fong's rule was that each person was limited to 10 skewers at a time, but Bu Fong could cook 30 to 40 skewers at a time. In this way, he could complete the transaction for 3 or 4 people at a time. Although the speed was good, it was still too slow. Therefore, Bu Fong modified the rule and limited each person to 1 skewer at a time, which made the speed much faster. He could complete the transaction for 30 to 40 people at a time. The efficiency was greatly increased, which also made some dissatisfied customers excited. Fa Wu straightened his kasaya with a big smile on his face. He was holding a skewer of demon frog meat in his hand. It was reddish-brown with sauce on it, which looked particularly tempting. It was steaming hot, and the lines on the demon frog meat were very obvious. Fa Wu took a deep breath. Immediately, The aroma drilled into his mouth and nose, and the slightly stimulating aroma made him salivate faster. Chomp! With a bite, he tore off a piece of meat. Underneath the reddish-brown meat was a white color, which was extremely smooth and elastic. When he chewed, it was very chewy, and the meat fragrance wrapped around his taste buds, making him linger. Fa Wu ate until his mouth was covered with oil, and his face was flushed. The stall's business was booming, and the uproar it caused spread with the word of mouth. After buying meat skewers, some people held them and went to the arena to watch the competition. While watching the competition, they ate with relish. The experts watching the competition couldn't help but glare at them. Many people were not in the mood to watch the competition. Instead, they stared at the meat skewers in those people's hands. As for the diners, they kindly told the powerhouses about it. Immediately, more and more people joined the queue to buy teppanyaki. This caused the competition on the arena to become dull and uninteresting. Without a skewer in one's hand, the competition was boring. The competition this time was between the Abyss team and the North Cloud Sea team. The North Cloud Sea was a small world. It was not very strong, but it was not weak either. There was no little saint in the team, but they were all half-step saints. This strength was stronger than that of the Blackwind continent. Before this, the Abyss had always been a vassal world of the Nether Prison, so not many people knew about it. Many people knew about the Abyss, and many people from other small worlds fled to it. However, they didn't have a clear understanding of its strength. The experts of the North Cloud Sea were very proud. In the arena, an Abyss law enforcer wrapped in a blood-colored robe hung his arms at his sides. Opposite him was a powerhouse from the North Cloud Sea. The expert was holding a meat skewer in his hand, and the aroma of the meat spread, causing an uproar under the arena. This is too much. He's eating meat skewers in the arena. Beast, I've waited in line for half a day to buy meat skewers. Don't waste it. Don't waste it. Below the stage, many people stared at the expert from the Northern Cloud Sea, shouting and cheering. The expert from the North Cloud Sea grinned and took a bite of the meat skewer with relish. Sizzle. The elastic demon frog meat flew out of the skewer, splashing oil. Munch. Munch. The North Cloud Sea expert was chewing the meat. The other members of the North Cloud Sea team were also eating meat skewers. Through the projection formation, this scene was broadcasted to the many worlds in the surroundings. Wow, were they eating? Ridiculous. How can they eat meat skewers in a competition? Nonsense. I want to eat it. It looks so delicious. Through the projection array, the experts of the surrounding worlds all swallowed their saliva. Everyone had a hopeful look on their faces. The appearance of the meat skewers made the boring competition more interesting. It made the projection array's viewership even higher. Bro, wait for me to finish the meat skewers. Let's compete after that. This delicacy can't be wasted. The North Cloud Sea expert chewed the demon frog meat and said to the Deep Abyss expert. Commander Mo Yuan was a little speechless. Was eating that important? Okay, I'll wait for you. The Deep Abyss expert smiled sinisterly. It seemed a little cold. All of a sudden, a moment later, his aura exploded. He turned into a blood-red light beam and shot out. A pitch-black death scythe suddenly swept out and slashed at the powerhouses of the Northern Cloud Sea. Swoosh! The Deep Abyss expert made his move. Instantly, everyone was shocked. That oppressive pressure made it hard for people to breathe. It was actually a little saint. They didn't expect that the low-profile Deep Abyss expert was actually a little saint expert. His blood-red robe fluttered. Swoosh! A head shot up into the sky. Straight into the sky. Blood gushed out like a fountain. Blood spurted all over the ground. The Deep Abyss expert carried the sickle over his shoulder and held the meat skewer with a bite in his hand. He continued to laugh sinisterly. I don't have that much time to wait for you, the Deep Abyss expert sneered. Then he threw the meat skewer in his hand to the ground, raised his foot, and stomped on it, twisting it a little. Bam! After that, the body of the North Cloud Sea half-step saint fell to the ground with a clattering sound. He's dead. This is a little brutal. The deep abyss experts are indeed villains. What a waste of meat. It's shameful to waste delicious food. Around the arena, many people were in an uproar. Killing the enemy with one move was the first death in the team competition so far. Even in the battle between Bufong and the Blackwind Continent expert, Bufong had only wounded the half-step saint with an explosive meatball. He didn't kill him. However, this little saint of the deep abyss didn't hesitate to kill him. With one slash, he cut off his opponent's head. Commander Mo Yuan narrowed his eyes, and a cold smile emerged at the corner of his mouth. That's right. That's more like it. What's the fun of a competition that's like playing house? The North Cloud Sea expert was stunned. Then, many people roared angrily. To them, the death of a teammate was a thrill. Some people's eyes were red, and they were growling. They didn't even have time to eat their meat skewers. A bunch of trash. I'll kill as many as you come. The deep abyss expert, carrying the blood-colored sickle, laughed coldly. This arrogant aura caused many people to suck in a breath of cold air. Then, the little saint walked out of the arena. An abyss expert clad in a blood-colored robe stepped into the arena. An expert from the North Cloud Sea rushed up, and the will of the great path of the Northern Cloud Sea swirled above his head. You killed my brother. I'll never forgive the abyss. The North Cloud Sea half-step saint roared. His eyes were bloodshot. His aura soared into the sky. Instantly, it turned into waves, crashing over. The will of the great path turned into 9 overlapping waves, its pressure shaking the sky. Crack, crack, crack. The abyss expert's figure, wrapped in a blood-colored robe, revealed a disdainful sneer. His pitch-black lips parted. A moment later, his blood-colored robe exploded. The abyss expert turned into a blood-colored beam of light. He crashed straight into the overlapping waves. Boom! The entire wave of the will of the great path was knocked away. If the little saint used this move, I would be a little afraid. A mere half-step saint is nothing but trash. The blood-colored beam of light emerged. A moment later, 2 scimitars were placed on the North Cloud Sea half-step saint's head. Then, the 2 scimitars slashed down. Slash! Blood spurted into the sky. Another head fell from the sky. The North Cloud Sea half-step saint died again. Boom! His body smashed into the arena, causing a rumble that sounded like a drum exploding in everyone's hearts. The people of the abyss were really ruthless. Everyone around the arena fell silent. Another little saint had died. It was obvious that the abyss had come prepared. 2 of the North Cloud Seas experts had died. Sorrow filled the North Cloud Seas camp. A long roar echoed through the air. The strongest expert of the North Cloud Sea dashed up. The energy on his body surged. At this moment, he had forcibly broken through. He was a top half-step saint. He had planned to break through to the little saint realm in this tournament and amaze the world with a brilliant feat. He had never thought that he would witness the death of 2 of his teammates. The abyss expert stuck out his tongue, licking the blood on his scimitars. His face was cold. Slowly, he turned around and walked off the arena. A blood-robed figure shot out from the abyss's camp. A pitch-black spear was thrown, whistling and bursting with sonic booms. It was a loud bang. The spear collided with the expert of the North Cloud Seas camp. Swish! The spear was sent flying backward. A long roar echoed through the air. Blood-colored energy filled the air. In the abyss, another little saint made his move. The abyssal expert gripped the spear tightly and thrust it out again. It pierced through the Northern Cloud Seas half-sage, whose body was boiling and in the process of breaking through. Damn abyss! The experts of the North Cloud Sea were so furious that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. It was a loud bang. He launched his attack. The abyss expert was instantly sent flying. Blood spurted out. Whoosh! As he was sent flying, he threw out his spear and pierced Bei Yunhai's head, nailing him to the ground. Fresh blood flowed out of the Northern Cloud Seas expert's head. Boom! The abyss powerhouse landed on the ground. His blood-red robe was torn apart, revealing the mottled wounds on his body. He wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. Pooey. Trash. The abyss expert sneered in disdain. He walked up to the corpse and pulled out his spear. The entire arena was silent. Some people even forgot to eat their meat skewers. The stench of blood in the abyss frightened all of them. Everyone understood that the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path was not a child's play. Carrying the blood-dripping spear, the abyss expert smiled coldly. Our leader said that the fate of this northern cloud sea trash is the same as that group of worms from the Heaven Chief realm. Don't let us meet you from the Heaven Chief realm. Otherwise, I'll let you know what death is. All of you must die. The abyss expert sneered. After that, he carried the blood-red spear and walked out of the arena. All the people were in an uproar. They could not believe that the abyss was targeting the Heaven Chief realm like this. The immortal cooking realm was really done for when it was met by such a murderous team. The three little saints, the abyss strength was beyond everyone's expectation. How could the Heaven Chief realm stop them? Even if they had that magical chef, it would be useless. It seems that I have to eat more meat skewers before the Heaven Chief realm meets the abyss. Otherwise, I won't be able to eat meat skewers anymore, someone murmured. In front of the stall, Bu Fong's hand, which was holding the flat spatula, paused slightly. Narrowing his eyes, he looked up at the arena, where a fierce, murderous aura was surging toward him. Not a single word of the abyss expert's shouts was missed by him. The abyss. It seems that I didn't blow it up enough. Bu Fong thought seriously, his face expressionless. On the first day of the competition, the entire competition was in an uproar. Whether it was the counterattack of the Heaven Chief realm or the massacre of the abyss, everyone understood the cruelty and surprise of this competition. There were pleasant surprises everywhere, causing many people to be extremely excited and shout in delight. Moreover, the competition was transmitted to all the small worlds through the projection array, allowing them to pay attention to their own competitions. This also made everyone's fighting spirit high. The team competition represented the honor of each small world. Victory was glorious, and defeat was humiliating. This was the cruelty of the competition. Nether Prison did not participate in the preliminary round of the team competition. Nether Prison was very strong, and they were basically superior. In the team competition, only by reaching the semifinals would they have a chance to meet the second echelon teams of Nether Prison. Yes, there were two teams from Nether Prison in the competition. After all, Nether Prison was vast, and it was divided into 9 clans, so it was normal for them to form 2 teams. Of course, there was one more thing that had spread throughout the surrounding worlds during this competition. It was the food of the Heaven Chief realm. The Heaven Chief realm was famous for its food. Now, as the competition progressed, the delicious taste of Bu Fong's dishes captivated countless contestants. Everyone was still eating during the competition. This was enough to show the temptation and delicious taste of the dishes. The news was transmitted to the surrounding worlds through the projection array, making many people very hungry. Many worlds had decided to go to the Heaven Chief realm just for the food. Now that Nether Prison had connected the closed Heaven Chief realm, many worlds around it had the opportunity to follow Nether Prison caravans into Heaven Chief realm. Therefore, it was not impossible for them to taste the food of the Heaven Chief realm. Before they knew it, the Heaven Chief realm had become famous in the surrounding worlds. Of course, it was a fact that the team of the Heaven Chief realm was not strong. The first day was over. All the contestants returned to the inn. Meanwhile, Bu Fong's stall was closed. The people in line watched reluctantly as Bu Fong closed the stall. Many of them looked regretful. Some even begged the owner Bu to continue cooking. However, Bu Fong refused. After cooking for a day, Bu Fong had made a lot of money. Of course, he was also a little tired. The ability of Fong Fong Little Stall to make money was terrifying, even more so than that of Fong Fong Ice Cream Shop. Tomorrow, the stall will change its dishes. You can look forward to it. Tomorrow, when the competition begins, it will be open for business. Bu Fong said. After saying that, many people reluctantly left. Bufong returned to the inn. Zhu Yin and the others followed Bufong. At this moment, they looked at Bufong with fanatical eyes. They finally knew how strong the great demon was. This was the great demon who created miracles. Go back and train hard. This competition is a good experience for you. Summarize the reasons for your failure. Standing in front of the door, Bufong looked at the four people with an expressionless face and said. The four people nodded. Of course, they couldn't be blamed for their failure. It was mainly because they were too weak. A 6-star true immortal realm expert was too weak. If it weren't for Bufong, the Heaven Chief realm would have been swept away. The most important thing is to participate, Bufong said. Of course, he was comforting them. However, Zhu Yin and the others didn't care. This competition had made them tame a lot of their arrogance. No, it could be said that they had suffered a complete blow. However, it was precisely because of this that they were encouraged to grow continuously. The four people returned to their rooms. Bufong closed the door. After closing the door, Bufong entered the Heaven and Earth farmland. He began to prepare the ingredients for tomorrow's stall. Bufong really liked tomorrow's dishes. Besides preparing the ingredients, Bufong also talked with Nyohan-san about how to make death food tools. The apprentices were also talking in the Heaven and Earth farmland. The Heaven and Earth farmland had been discovered. They came here every day. In addition to their daily cultivation, they spent most of their time cultivating in the Heaven and Earth farmland. The spiritual energy of Heaven and Earth here was too rich. With the presence of the Heaven Tree and the 9-Revolution Great Path Tea Tree, the spiritual energy here was extremely rich, except for Jing Yuan and Cici, who might not care too much about it. The others were immersed in the rich spiritual energy and cultivating seriously. This caused their cultivation bases to improve rapidly. The next day came quickly. On this day, the competition was not a team competition, but an individual competition. In fact, compared with the team competition, the individual competition was crueler. Yesterday, Zhu Yin had handed the Jade Talisman number to Bufong. Bufong's number was 1300, which was at the end of the list. At dawn, the square of Forbidden Soul City became lively. In fact, Bufong had some doubts about setting the competition in Forbidden Soul City, which was located on the bank of the Acheron River. Every time he thought of the Acheron grass and the flower of helplessness, Bufong could not help but want to pick them to make the wine, the Acheron wine of helplessness. Of course, it was just a thought. The source of the Acheron River was guarded by the great sage of the Acheron River, which was comparable to a forbidden land. Ordinary people did not dare to go there. Besides, the contestants had long been prohibited from leaving the city. People were coming and going in the square, and it was very lively. Bufong led Zhu Yin and the others to the square. They were still in the same position and the same movements as yesterday. Bufong took out the stall from the system storage space and placed it on the ground. An uproar broke out in the surroundings. Many diners who had been waiting for a long time came over and surrounded Bufong. They were led by the monks from the West Little Buddhism realm in Kasayas. Amiba, Owner Bu, what delicacy are you going to cook today? Is it still teppanyaki? Fa Wu put his palms together and said gently with a kind look on his face. The people around him were also curious. They saw Bufong take out more ingredients from the system's storage space than yesterday. These ingredients were also skewered with wooden sticks. Perhaps he was going to cook teppanyaki. Teppanyaki? No, I'm going to cook a new dish today. Bufong shook his head and denied it. He didn't answer the others and continued to concentrate on preparing the ingredients. Because there were more contestants. Therefore, there was not only one arena for the individual competition, but 5 at the same time. They wanted to finish the preliminary round of the individual competition as soon as possible. Due to the fact that there were too many arenas, the Infernal Realm side dispatched many people to control the projection formation. They projected images of each arena selectively. Each arena was refereed by a commander-level expert. They maintained order in the arenas. Soon, the competition began. At the same time, Bufong's cooking began. Gurgle. In the stall, The Black Turtle Constellation Walk was placed on the walk, which was divided into 9 slots, which were called 9 squares. Different broth was boiling in each of the 9 squares. Many people wondered what owner Bu was going to cook this time. After everything was done, Bu Fong handed the banner to Xianyuan Xiaohui and asked him to hang it up. Swish, the banner fell down. A large group of people gathered in front of the banner. Fong Fong Little Stall's dish today, spicy skewers. 10 immortal crystals, nether crystals, per skewer, and 10 skewers per bowl at most. As usual, the first 10 diners will enjoy a 10% discount. Everyone looked at the words on the banner. The group of people was once again dumbfounded. Spicy skewers? What the hell is this? Where was the teppanyaki? Where was the octopus skewers? Many diners were discontented. They wanted teppanyaki and octopus skewers. However, the chef was Bu Fong, and they couldn't afford to offend him, so they could only wail, "This spicy skewers is definitely not delicious. It's not as delicious as teppanyaki. When the business starts, we won't buy it, right? We want to protest. No teppanyaki. We won't buy it. Owner Bu will suffer a great loss." All the diners were clamoring. Fa Wu rubbed his bald head as well. Ba, Owner Bu, please make teppanyaki. Otherwise, this poor monk will protest to the end. Xianyuan Xiaohui looked at Bu Fong worriedly. She was afraid that these diners would not buy it. Bu Fong, who was preparing the ingredients, lazily raised his eyes, glanced at the crowd, and twitched the corner of his mouth. Don't worry. Although they say no, their stomachs are very honest. Boom! In the arena, the deafening sound of a bronze bell rang out. The whole square was boiling in an instant. The individual competition of the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path had finally begun. At the same time, Bu Fong shook off the water on his hands and exhaled softly. Looking at the noisy crowd in front of the stall, he said lightly, "Fong Fong's little stall is open for business now. Line up, and the first 10 customers will enjoy a 10% discount." As soon as Bu Fong's voice rang out, the crowd burst into an uproar. Then, under Xianyuan Xiaohui's speechless gaze, a group of diners, who had said no, lined up neatly. The bald monk, Fa Wu, stood at the front with a blue and white porcelain bowl in his hand, his nostrils wide open, and his face full of expectation. The corner of Xianyuan Xiaohui's mouth twitched. "I'm so King stupid to believe your protest. I'm stupid to talk to foodies about integrity." Chapter 1246. Bu Fong's dish today was shish kebab. Shish kebab was a kind of grassroots delicacy in Bu Fong's previous life. It originated from Sichuan and was popular among the public. It was said that as long as there were people, there would be shish kebab. Of course, this might be an exaggeration. However, shish kebab was somewhat similar to hot pot. It was also called mini hot pot. At least, it was a representative of grassroots delicacy. It was quite popular. After all, it was convenient to eat while walking. Many people would like it. While walking, one could feel the fragrance of the ingredients blossoming in the mouth. This was the essence of shish kebab. Making shish kebab wasn't complicated, but it took a lot of time to process the ingredients. They needed to cut the ingredients into pieces and skewer them with slender wooden sticks. Moreover, the ingredients used to make shish kebab were different from those used to make teppanyaki. It wasn't just meat. There were also many spirit herbs, which could satisfy the public's preferences. Teppanyaki required ingredients with a high fat content. That way, during the cooking process of teppanyaki, the aroma of the dish would be released to the maximum. For example, octopus tentacles, demon frog meat, and so on. The fat of these ingredients, as long as they were cooked to high temperatures, would emit a very tantalizing aroma. Many people were curious about shish kebab. Gulp, gulp. The Black Turtle Constellation Walk was divided into 9 palaces according to Bu Fong's will. The soup in each palace was different. There was Chilean bone soup, abyssal chili sauce soup, radish soup, spring of life soup, spirit herb tonic soup, and so on. With so many choices, the customers would be able to choose more from the broth. You come here. Show us how to choose the ingredients to make shish kebab. Bu Fong said to Yu, who was standing quietly behind him. Yu was bewildered. Her eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon. Her long skirt fluttered as she flew to Bu Fong's side. There are many ingredients here. You can choose any one of them. At that time, you could only choose 10 skewers. You could choose 10 skewers of the same ingredient or 10 skewers of different ingredients. Bu Fong said to Yu. Nethery nodded seriously. She stooped down, moving closer to the spot where the ingredients were selected. Her grayish-green hair drooped down, and she instinctively lifted it, tucking it behind her ear. The customers in the line also widened their eyes and stared at Yu's choice. Yu took the blue and white porcelain bowl that Bu Fong handed to her, picked out the ingredients one by one, and placed them in the bowl. Octopus tentacles, demon frog meat, fire mushrooms, demon beef rolls, peeled and translucent crayfish, and other ingredients. Not long after, 10 skewers of ingredients were placed in a porcelain bowl. Bu Fong took the blue and white porcelain bowl that you handed over, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Very good. What flavor do you have? Do you want it spicy? Bu Fong looked at you and said, Yes. You thought for a while, then answered immediately. Bu Fong understood, so he didn't ask any more questions. He quickly placed the 10 skewers of ingredients in Yu's porcelain bowl into the 9-palace black turtle constellation wok. Of course, Bu Fong had different soup categories for different ingredients. For example, the crayfish meat was placed in the spicy pot, and the fire mushrooms were placed in the spring of life pot. Different ingredients corresponded to different pots, which would allow the taste of the ingredients to be fully displayed, making the taste even more fascinating. Gurgle. The skewers of ingredients were placed into the wok. The soup in the wok was boiling, and the steam was so dense that it seemed to blur one's eyes. The aroma of the soup was very fragrant. The 9 flavors of the soup diffused at the same time, bursting out with an unimaginable flavor. The customers in the line saw this kind of cooking for the first time, and they felt very novel. Even Xianyuan Xiaohui widened her eyes. It was similar to the hot pot that Bu Fong had introduced in the past. However, compared to the hot pot, this kebab was more convenient and convenient. Without the cumbersome hot pot, it was a lot more convenient. Of course, the 2 cooking methods had their own advantages. The hot pot had its own way of eating and enjoyment, while the kebab had its own way of eating and enjoyment. Rumble, finally, when the time was up, Bu Fong's eyes instantly became serious. He raised his hand, slapping hard. Instantly, the skewers of ingredients shot up into the sky. Bu Fong's mental force spread out like strands of silk. Rumble, those ingredients were instantly taken down from the wooden skewers, falling into the blue and white porcelain bowls. Each of them was round and hot, with steam rising from them. Bu Fong raised his hand, holding the blue and white porcelain bowl. On his other hand, he put 2 fingers together, then flicked. Instantly, the soup in the 9-palace black turtle constellation wok surged, as if it had turned into a long dragon, instantly crashing into the blue and white porcelain bowl. The swaying soup showed a boiling red color. Holding the bowl, Bu Fong sprinkled the seasoning into the bowl. After adding some other ingredients, a bowl of kebab that looked quite simple and practical was completed. He handed the bowl to you. You reached out with both hands, holding the bowl. The soup was boiling, and the ingredients inside seemed to be constantly bobbing up and down. Waves of rich fragrance gushed out from this place. The spice-making method that Bu Fong had learned in the abyss was displayed vividly at this moment. He added spices to the bowl, making the kebab's flavor even stronger. Eat it. Have a taste. Bu Fong said. You gently pursed her red lips, as if saliva was flowing out. She nodded, gently stirring the ingredients in the bowl with a blue and white porcelain spoon. In the boiling red soup, the ingredients were faintly discernible. The spicy aroma spread instantly, filling the air for a long time. The surrounding people were watching Yu's movements. You gently stirred the porcelain spoon. The porcelain spoon scooped up a round and tender crayfish meat lying in the spoon. There was half a spoonful of rosy soup in the spoon. The crayfish meat was soaked in the soup, looking even more adorable. Steam billowed, like smoke, shrouding the crayfish meat. It made the latter as exquisite as a work of art. You parted her red lips, revealing her pearly white teeth. She put the porcelain spoon into her mouth. Instantly, the crayfish meat entered her mouth. Her fragrant tongue moved. Instantly, the crayfish meat moved between her teeth. When she bit down, it had an unexpected elasticity. The taste burst out. The sweet crayfish meat made Yu's eyes brighten in a blink of an eye. The sweet taste mixed with the spicy taste gave off a different kind of experience. Sizzle. Holding the bowl, he drank a mouthful of soup. As soon as the boiling soup entered her stomach, she felt as if her whole body was burning. Nethery's fair skin was flushed, and beads of sweat rolled down her forehead. Delicious, Nethery exhaled, her fragrant tongue licking her red lips, which had been stimulated by the spiciness, as she squinted her eyes and said, Yu's table manners completely ignited the passion of the diners in the queue. They thought that this kebab would not be as delicious as teppanyaki. But looking at Yu's table manners, it didn't seem to be too bad. As they drank the boiling soup, they couldn't help but swallow their saliva. They couldn't wait. Bufong had put 10 skewers of ingredients in each of the 9 squares, so Bufong could sell 10 servings at a time. Bufong had asked each diner to take a blue and white porcelain bowl. Fa Wu couldn't wait. He came to the stall, his eyes shining as he stared at the 9-palace black turtle constellation walk. Choose 10 skewers of ingredients, Bufong said lightly. He rolled up the sleeves of his vermilion robe, revealing his fair arms. Ba, boss, you have so many dishes today that I don't know where to start, Fa Wu said with a smile, clasping his palms together. You can choose whatever you want. They're all delicious. Bufong was very confident. After that, Fa Wu made his choice. Demon frog meat, octopus tentacles, crayfish meat, demon beef, spirit pork, and jade chicken gizzards. Fa Wu had chosen a total of 10 meat ingredients. Bufong was a little stunned as he watched. Didn't he say he was a vegetarian? He really doesn't stand on ceremony with so many meat ingredients. Ba, wine and meat go through the intestines. Master isn't here, so I eat secretly. Fa Wu's face didn't blush, and his heart didn't skip a beat. For the sake of eating, he was ready to risk everything. Bufong didn't say anything. He grabbed Fa Wu's porcelain bowl and took out all the ingredients from the 9-palace black turtle constellation walk. The twigs flew away, and the meat pieces fell into the bowl, filling half of it. What kind of soup? Bufong asked. Qilin bone soup, Fa Wu said with a smile, clasping his palms together. It's meat soup. How much does this monk like meat? Bufong didn't refuse. He raised his finger. The soup in the Qilin bone soup immediately turned into a running Qilin and rushed into the bowl. The bowl was filled to the brim. After sprinkling the seasoning, he handed it to Fa Wu. Fa Wu happily took the bowl, paid the immortal crystals, and left happily. He squatted aside and began to gorge himself on the soup. He gulped it down. The aroma of the meat exploded, making Fa Wu's eyes go wide. It was completely different from the taste of teppanyaki. The freshness of the ingredients and the aroma of the soup combined perfectly. Moreover, when eating from the bowl, one could feel the pleasure of eating delicious food. The combination of all these feelings made one feel as if they were traveling in the sky. They couldn't help but feel like they were enjoying it. This skewer, it's not weaker than teppanyaki. It's on fire. It's completely on fire. Fa Wu's praise and the way he gobbled down his bowl like a madman drove the people in the queue crazy. The clamor immediately burst forth. Everyone wanted a bowl of kebabs. On the other side, the individual competition of the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path had begun. The first match of the preliminary round of the individual competition would be a random match between hundreds and thousands of participants. Of course, the strength of the contestants was uneven. It made the match slightly unfair. But even if it was unfair, so what? That was the rule of the competition. With strength, even if it was unfair, one could still break through. The so-called unfairness was only for the weak. Slash! With one slash, a head flew into the sky. The contestants of the abyss were still as brutal as ever. The ice-cold, killing intent caused the surrounding spectators to feel a chill down their spines as they were filled with righteous indignation. However, there was nothing they could do even if they were angry. After all, there was no rule against killing in this competition. Mo Yin and the others were responsible for watching the competition, and when it was Bu Fong's turn, they would inform Bu Fong to go. Of course, when it was their turn, they would go all out. It's Zhu Yan's turn. Suddenly, Mo Yin cried out. Fong Yu, who followed her, widened his eyes and looked in Zhu Yan's direction. In the arena, Zhu Yan was already standing calmly. He took a deep breath and relaxed his body. The projection array also captured Zhu Yan's match. In other words, because of Bu Fong, the Heaven Chief Realms competition had become the focus of attention. As soon as Zhu Yan stepped into the arena, he attracted everyone's attention. After all, he was a contestant in the Heaven Chief Realm. In the Heaven Chief Realm, in the square of the Heaven Chief Hall, everyone had gathered in the square early. Now, watching the competition together had become a major event in the Heaven Chief Realm. When the head of the Zhu family saw Zhu Yan, he couldn't help but clench his fists nervously. Zhu Yanping calmed the excitement in his heart. He opened his eyes and looked forward to his opponent. Suddenly, an uproar came from around him. Zhu Yan paused. Turning his head to look, he saw a bare-chested man with strong muscles stepping onto the stage. Zhu Yan's pupils shrank when he saw the familiar figure. Is that a Vajra Realm expert? Mo Yin and Fong Yu also turned pale. Damn it! Zhu, break all the bones in this boy's body for me. Outside the arena, the Vajra Realm expert, who was beaten up by the crowd yesterday, pounded his chest and roared. The Vajra Realm expert who stepped into the arena grinned and clenched his fists. I didn't expect to meet someone from the Heaven Chief Realm so soon. You little worm from the Heaven Chief Realm. Come here and let me break all your bones. The Vajra Realm expert grinned. As soon as he finished speaking, the aura on his body suddenly erupted. The aura of a peak half-step saint made Zhu Yan's face turn pale. Chapter 1247. Zhu Yan did not expect to encounter an expert from the Vajra region in his first individual match. Although this Vajra region expert was not the one who beat him up last time, there was no difference. After all, they were both experts from the Vajra region. Not only Zhu Yan, but Mo Yin and the others also turned pale and felt sad for Zhu Yan. Did Zhu Yan offend the people of the Vajra region in this life? The bruises on his face had yet to disappear, and now he had once again encountered an expert from the Vajra realm in the individual competition. Last time, because it was in the inn, the people from the Vajra region did not go all out. Now that they were in the arena, they could be even more unscrupulous. When the time came, Zhu Yan would be even more miserable. What should we do? Mo Yin asked anxiously. Fong Yu was also at a loss. What could he do? Why don't we go to the Great Demon or ask Zhu Yan to give up? Fong Yu asked tentatively. Giving up was a good idea. That way, Zhu Yan might not have to bear the wrath of the Vajra region expert. However, would Zhu Yan really give up? Mo Yin didn't know how to answer. Let's ask Zhu Yan to give up. He can't beat the Vajra realm expert. Mo Yin said helplessly. However, when they turned to look at the arena, they opened their mouths but did not know what to say. Zhu Yan, forfeit. In the end, it was Mo Yin who shouted. The surrounding people immediately roared with laughter. The other experts from the Vajra region looked disdainfully at Mo Yin and the others below the arena, grinning disdainfully. Worms of the Heaven Chief Realm. What else can you do apart from forfeiting? The expert from the Vajra region looked disdainful. Zhu Yan's face was pale, and the bruises on his face seemed to become very obvious at this moment. In fact, at some point, he almost had the impulse to give up. He understood that he had to act within his means. But the surrounding laughter, the disdainful ridicule, it was as if numerous steel needles were stabbing into his chest, causing his entire face to turn red. He couldn't accept it Although this was an individual competition, he was still representing the Heaven Chief realm. Was he going to embarrass the Heaven Chief realm? No, he could not disgrace the Heaven Chief realm. Forfeit. I won't. Zhu Yan's eyes suddenly burst out with ruthlessness. Lung gritted his teeth and roared. His body was shrouded in energy. You're not giving up? Courage is commendable, but stupidity. Zhu Yan's opponent grinned. The muscles on his body suddenly bulged, and the blood in his body seemed to be churning. Then he stomped his foot on the ground. The ground seemed to explode. Like a phantom, he suddenly disappeared on the spot. And when he reappeared, he was already in front of Zhu Yan. Then he punched Zhu Yan in the abdomen. Zhu Yan didn't even have time to react. Under this punch, the energy on his body had completely dissipated. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Poochie! Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. Zhu Yan opened his mouth and spat out blood. His whole face was twisted. That was because of the pain. It must be uncomfortable, right? We Vajra realm experts specialize in the cultivation of the physical body, so we know the structure of the human body very well. Our energy entangled in your body is enough to thoroughly stimulate your pain, nerves, the Vajra realm expert said, grinning. Suddenly, his eyes flashed with a sharp gleam. Next, you will feel a pain that makes you wish you were dead, but you can't. Kacha! The Vajra realm expert jerked his fist out of Zhu Yan's abdomen. All the bones in his body seemed to be crackling. The next moment, he raised his fist and smashed it against Zhu Yan's chin. With a loud bang, Zhu Yan was sent flying into the sky. You've missed the best time to beg for mercy. The Vajra realm expert grinned hideously. His thumb pressed against his index finger, and with a sudden force, a cracking sound rang out. Then, he pulled his other hand toward the void. Boom, boom, boom. His arm was like a steel whip, constantly lashing out and smashing Zhu Yan's body. In an instant, Zhu Yan's miserable howl rang out in the void, and blood splattered everywhere. Aha! The experts of the Vajra region were all laughing, and their eyes were filled with fanaticism. They liked this feeling, the feeling of torturing the weak. They liked the feeling of their opponents wailing under their mighty power. Boom! The ground exploded all of a sudden. The next moment, the Vajra realm expert rushed up. A hand stretched out, and a thick palm suddenly pressed on Zhu Yan's arm. A cracking sound rang out. Zhu Yan's arm twisted strangely and was crushed by the Vajra realm expert, like a crispy biscuit. Stop it! Fong Yu and Mo Yan's faces turned deathly pale, and they watched the battle in the arena, trembling all over. It was a bloody tyranny. Even the referee was silent. The arena was surrounded by groups of spectators. Some of them were excited, while others were silent. However, no one went to stop them. After all, this was an arena match, and the opponent had chosen to stand in the arena, which meant that he was prepared to die. The Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path had never been a sheltered game. The Heaven Chief realm. In the square of Heaven Chief Hall, the originally optimistic atmosphere had fallen into a dead silence at this moment. Looking at Zhu Yan, who was being abused on a light screen, everyone felt a sense of suffocation in their chests. The head of the Zhu family was trembling all over, and his eyes were red. Zhu Yan was a junior of the Zhu family, the one who was being abused on the light screen and had all his bones crushed. He was the best junior of the Zhu family. Now, he was being abused like this, but there was nothing they could do about it. They were furious. After a moment of silence, everyone burst into an uproar. They were filled with righteous indignation, but it was useless. At this moment, they understood that not everyone was like the Great Demon, and the Great Demon was just a miracle. Outside the Heaven Chief realm, it was not a sheltered place, but a cruel battlefield. Boom! Zhu Yan smashed into the arena, his whole body twisting strangely. His face no longer had the slightest trace of blood. All his bones had been crushed by the Vajra realm expert. It was a miserable sight. When Mo Yan saw this, tears streamed down her face. His mind began to tremble. She covered her mouth with her hand, and her body kept shaking. Fan Yu clenched his fists tightly and let out a low growl. The winner is Heir Zhu of the Vajra realm, the referee said expressionlessly. Bah! The Vajra realm expert grinned and spat out a mouthful of saliva. Now you look more like a worm. Don't worry, you will all end up like him. Don't think that only the Abyss is targeting you, but the Vajra realm is also targeting you. You will all end up like this. Heir Zhu burst out laughing. His bones cracked, and the next moment, he slowly walked out of the arena. The others fell silent. The Earth Prison referee in the arena did not say a word. In fact, it was not a coincidence that Zhu Yin met the Vajra realm expert. It was because the Vajra realm expert deliberately swapped places with Zhu Yan's opponent. The Vajra realm had their eyes on the people of the Heaven Chief realm, and they would not let the Heaven Chief realm step into the second round. In the first round, they would trample all the people of the Heaven Chief realm to death. Their main target was the chef, who shone brilliantly in the team competition yesterday. So, the Heaven Chief realm was going to suffer. Many people around them sighed softly. Poor Heaven Chief realm. The weak can only be tortured and killed by the experts. This is the cruel law of survival. Since they came to participate in the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path, they naturally have to face this, the surrounding people murmured. The Abyss expert wrapped in a blood-colored robe looked at Zhu Yin, who was lying in the arena like a dead dog. He smiled coldly, then turned and left. Zhu Yin and the others were naturally not their targets. Their target was the chef, the expressionless, cold chef. If they could, they would break every single bone in that cold chef's body and smash him onto the stage like a dead dog. Of course, they were different from the Vajra realm. They would not show mercy, and they would pierce the bodies of those chefs from the Heaven Chief realm with their weapons. They would taste the blood. Fong Fong Little Stall's business was as good as ever. The line was getting longer and longer. Around the stall, there were all kinds of sizzling sounds. Diners were squatting on the road with porcelain bowls in their hands, drinking delicious soup. The sound of slurping rang out incessantly. It was different from the tragic scene in the arena. The atmosphere here was somewhat joyful. Compared with other flavors of soup, the soup with abyssal chili sauce was more popular. Most of the customers chose the spicy soup. The fiery red soup made them feel dazed. When they took a sip, the spicy taste filled their mouths, making their lips rosy and delicious. It was extremely spicy. Basically, after finishing a bowl, the diners would tacitly run to the back of the line and continue to line up. Moreover, some people went even further, directly eating and drinking in the line. When it was their turn, they had just finished their bowls, so they could continue to eat another bowl. That kind of satisfaction made every one of them intoxicated. Damn it, it was so refreshing. As for the price, the contestants who could participate in the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path were all geniuses from different realms. Immortal crystals and nether crystals were nothing to them. In their opinion, it was a bargain to sell a bowl of kebabs for only 100 immortal crystals. Xinyuan Xiaohui found that he was wrong again. He thought that the teppanyaki's ability to make money yesterday was already terrifying. But when he saw today's kebabs, he found that he was wrong. Kebabs' ability to make money was even more terrifying and faster than teppanyaki's. Bufong was also happy because he had made a lot of money. He felt that he would soon be able to earn enough revenue to participate in the Little Saints test. He would be qualified to take the Little Saints test. As long as he passed the Little Saints test, he would not have to break through the bottleneck from half-step saint to Little Saint. He might wake up and become a Little Saint. That was the scariest thing. Perhaps he was the real pay-to-win boss. Suddenly, the sound of messy footsteps rang out. Bufong's hands suddenly stopped moving. In the distance, 3 silhouettes dashed over like they were flying. They were followed by an extremely strong smell of blood. Bufong's brows furrowed. What's going on? Bufong looked into the distance. Mo Yan's face was covered with tears as she ran. Fong Yu was carrying a figure on his back. The figure was covered in blood, and his aura was weak, as if he was on the verge of death. The people in the queue were in an uproar, and they all made way for the 3 figures. Fa Wu grabbed a porcelain bowl with one hand, wiped the grease off his mouth, and frowned. The great demon. Save Zhu Yan. He's about to be killed. Mo Yin said sorrowfully, covering her mouth. Bufang glanced at her with a frown. Then he grabbed a blue and white porcelain bowl, a bowl of soup from the spring of life, and a few skewers of immortal herbs. Holding the steaming bowl of kebabs, he walked toward Mo Yin and the others. He had already seen Zhu Yan. That kid's appearance was very miserable. Behind Zhu Yin and the others, the crowd also followed. The person with the projection talisman also chased after them, seemingly relishing the scene to the surrounding world with relish. When he saw Bufang's stall, he was stunned. The scene of everyone eating a bowl of kebabs immediately spread to all the surrounding worlds. Everyone who was eating kebabs stared blankly at the camera. Fa Wu froze. Then, he raised a hand and wiped the grease off the corner of his mouth. Ba, the owner's fire mushrooms taste good. The Heaven Chief realm was already boiling. The great demon actually opened a stall near the competition. And there are so many people waiting in line. He's indeed the great demon. He really knows how to have fun. Of course, the focus at the moment was still on Zhu Yan. The camera switched to Zhu Yan again. His miserable appearance caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. What's going on? Bufang's face was expressionless. Although Zhu Yan and the others were a little proud, since he had promised it that he would take good care of these little fellows, Bufang naturally would not break his promise. Mo Yin covered her mouth with her hand and told him what the Vajra realm experts had done to her. Bufang furrowed his brows. Does he specialize in attacking the Heaven Chief realm? That's a little too much. Bufang did not say anything. He handed the bowl of kebabs to Mo Yin and asked her to feed it to Zhu Yan. Gulp, gulp. With Mo Yan's help, the bowl of kebabs containing the spring of life was quickly drunk by Zhu Yan. Zhu Yan's aura, which was on the verge of death, gradually grew stronger and stabilized, and his broken bones seemed to be slowly recovering. You want to break all the bones of our Heaven Chief realm contestants. You have a bad temper. Bufang slowly rolled up his sleeves, and his calm eyes were surging with anger. Next match, number 1300, Bufang from the Heaven Chief realm, versus number 631, Sanju from the Vajra realm. Contestants from both sides, please gather in arena number 3 as soon as possible. In the direction of the arena, Commander Mo Yuan's cold voice suddenly rang out. The audience burst into an uproar. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. The Vajra realm contestants are really going against the Heaven Chief realm. The Heaven Chief realm is really miserable. Another Heaven Chief realm chef's bones are about to be crushed. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.